because I have to. got everybody?
Eric and Diane.
Right. Okay. So I think we're ready to start? Okay, I'm gonna get ready here. We'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for being patient with us being a little late. We had 2 meetings ahead of this, so we were involved with some other issues, and thank you for waiting for us.
Can we please note that we had an executive session prior to this meeting?
So if you would at this time stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll have a moment of silence. If you would keep Diane in your prayers, as well as Eric's son, Eric Sundling's son, who took a baseball to the mouth. I'm sure that would be helpful. Tammy, could I have you do the roll call?
Betty Anderson. Here. Carrie Armagost. Here. Megan Dreher. Here. Brady White.
Here.
Diane Page. Jeff Powell.
Here.
Janine Stump. Here. Eric Sundling. Kelly Fuller.
Here. Okay, do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the official minutes from the March 13th workshop?
I move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or anything that you need changed in any of those documents? Not seeing anything. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to public participation this evening. Do we have any public who are here to address the board? Okay. Not seeing any. Then we will move on to our presentations. We have 2 of those this evening. We're going to start with Mrs. Anna Smith, who is our school psychologist, Dr. Brandon Maines, who is our special ed director, Lori Sherman, our elementary principal, and Mrs. Kelly Schimpf, the certified occupational therapy assistant. And they're going to provide us some information about the calming spaces that are located in, I believe, just the elementary building, or are they in the high school too?
Just in the elementary.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we provided packets for all of you, because we want to be cognizant of everyone's time. So just kind of, we'll go through and some highlights of it, and then want the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have specifically. A lot of this information at the start was provided to us by Christine Key. So she is the Children's Resource Navigator for Clarion County and also the Clarion County Task Coordinator. So she kind of took over this grant, and the initiative behind it and the hope behind their project was to increase awareness and understanding of trauma-informed approaches and mental health in general, and then assist with that collaboration between school districts as well as all of the different community resources. So currently, every school district in Clarion County has access to this grant with the exception of one, and that last district is in the works to have things in place by the start of next school year. All of the items in the spaces are purchased through the grant, so it's been at no cost to the district. And the principle of its use is really largely implemented based off of PBIS, which we utilize at AC Valley K-12. So really focusing on as much prevention as possible. And I know there were some concerns or questions about the other spaces that we may have. So one of the parts to this that is really crucial is that it's available for all students. So Kelly will talk a little bit about that in a minute, but we do have other spaces to help address other needs for students specific with IEPs, but this is accessible for all students. There was also some concern about the use of the space and dependency on that space. And at the end of this packet, you'll see a ton of success stories and testimonials from different school districts, as well as the Clarion County Courthouse. So I know there was concern that it wasn't a courthouse, but it is. So that was something when we talked to Christy, she said, maybe that was something that whoever they talked to or looked at, they didn't know how to appropriately describe the space or the use. But you'll be able to see and read through all of those success stories from the districts there. And again, by having that collaborative piece with them, it allows us then, as we work through and determining If there are more mental health needs as we go through, if we need to make referrals to staff, and then being able to involve Christy as the CAST coordinator, working with families in the community and linking them up with the resources that they need. So there's some information in here just from real world experiences as well. She shared some stuff from a report from the system of care and seeing improvements with symptoms of anxiety, depression, educational outcomes, living situations, referrals to law enforcement and things like that. And there's a chart in there as well, just seeing kind of a reduction with suicidal ideation and suicidal attempts. So, there's really a strong combine of pulling resources together to help address the rising mental health needs. They also have a ton of other projects at play. So one of the things they're working on, not just in having these in schools or in the courthouse, they're creating calming kits for all first responders, which is awesome. And they have a lot of other different things in the district programs and things like that, working with kids. And, there were a couple things that we learned about as well. You think of, okay, what does this look like in the workplace? And actually, we're seeing that more and more. So we learned that the new 911 center in Clarion County actually has a quiet room, so that if their dispatchers have, really challenging calls and stuff like that and need a space to go, they have that. Even some personnel who attended the PDE conference in the fall for those 3 days, they actually offered a relaxation room all 3 days for all of the participants if it was needed. And then we also learned in response to a request from staff, UPMC created a respite room in their clinical laboratory building, which was intended to be a quiet area to get away and recharge as needed, and kind of provide that self-care. So, as a school, we are educating students the whole child, not just academically, but their social and emotional functioning. And, as adults, we all utilize different coping strategies and have these tools in our toolbox to use when we're stressed. If you go for a drive or you listen to music, you exercise. But for the children, we're trying to teach them these things so that they are able to better access their education and be as preventative as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to talk a little bit about the difference between the spaces, and then if you want more specific information about the utilization at AC Valley, she's happy to provide that, but again, want to be cognizant of your time. It's also in here if you need it.
Hello, thank you. My name is Kelly Shimp. I work for the intermediate unit, but I'm spending 5 days a week in the school district, either providing intervention services or working with students who have IEPs. So I'm a certified occupational therapy assistant. Just a little background on that, I don't find people jobs. I work with people in the stage of their life that is their occupation. So in the school system, it is them accessing their school and being successful with it. So it's a big umbrella that the OTs kind of fit under. So the first thing on here on the page 4 is talking a little bit about the difference between our sensory room, which is the room that is found on the first floor. It is down in the first and second grade wing. The sensory room is made for students who have a diagnosed sensory issue, whether they have a sensory processing disorder, sensory integration disorder. They typically are children who are on an IEP and have had an assessment done by an occupational therapist where it is identifying the areas that they need help with calming their bodies, calming their sensory systems, or alerting their bodies and their sensory systems. So the things that are in that room are used for that. There's a swing in there, there's calming lights. Those are all things to help with their sensory system, the 5 different parts of their sensory system. The calming spaces are more of a feelings kind of situation, where we are trying to get their feelings under control so that they can learn. There are studies out there neurologically. Again, we can give you the printouts on neurologic ability. There's a part of your brain that when you are in that fight or flight, or anxiety or stress or fear that kind of turns on in your body, in your brain, and when that happens, then you are not capable of any new learning situations. You are in a survival mode. So the calming spaces and what we're trying to do with those is if a child feels that they have, as I put it when I'm doing the training with the classroom teachers and the students, a big feeling. And it may be a happy feeling, it may be a sad feeling, it may be an overwhelmed feeling, that we are teaching them how to identify what that feeling is, what they think they could do to help get that feeling under control, and then identifying the new feeling that they're having, whether they're calm, they're ready to go, they're feeling more confident, and then they can re-enter the learning space. So when they're in the calming corner, as we call it, there's a whole process to the way they're doing it, because we're trying to teach them how to identify those problems and then to identify strategies or tools that will help them with that. There you'll see a lot of toys in that room, but we don't call them toys, we call them tools, because they're using them, they're putting them in their pretend toolbox to utilize if they do have those feelings outside of the school. So we've trained the kids on how to do it. You'll see in here on one of the pages, there's the actual procedures that I hand out to each of the classroom teachers or the adults that are in that area to work with that student so that they can start to work on learning all of those things. Do you have any questions about any of that?
Sure, I have some questions.
Okay.
So a kid uses this K through 6. When they get to 7th grade, what are they supposed to do then?
Well, one of the things that we hope is that by the time they get to 7th grade, they have those strategies in place. That's why we have a mechanism that will be starting next year. In the kindergarten classroom areas, there will be one in the 1-2 classroom area, and then there will be one in the 5-6 area. If we see that we have kids, that's the benefit of a smaller school district. If we know as a staff that we have a kid who hasn't yet developed the independence in those strategy areas, then we will certainly have to look at those situations. But at this point in time, giving them nothing, we can't give them nothing because we're afraid of what they may need in 7th grade. We have to give them some skill, some strategy, some tool to get through their day, to ready their minds so that they can academically succeed. And we will, for lack of a better word, cross that bridge when we come to it at this point.
So who specifically is watching these kids when they go out there?
If you look at the calming corner procedures, the students are not by themselves unless they've identified that they can't be. They're not out there by themselves. They can either call myself because I'm in the building all day, every day. They can call one of the other teachers or one of the other staff members who doesn't have a classroom per se, and then we can go through that process. So then the phone call, I get a phone call from the teacher and they say, student X needs you, and then I go upstairs and spend time with them.
I can also let you know too that today we had a student that needed to access the calming space, and Mrs. Rice, our counselor, was the person who went with him and sat outside while he accessed that space.
Okay, so you're not pulling teachers out of classrooms, you're not having teachers watch the kid in there in the classroom, you're not pulling Title I teachers from the small groups they're working with?
No.
Okay.
And I guess just to add to that too, from the preventative piece is, we have some students now who are accessing it on a daily routine basis at a certain time, like the morning, the noise in the classroom and things like that to come in to help set off their day better. And preventatively doing something like that, where even if it's requiring Miss Kelly to sit there, is better than being reactive when we have a student who doesn't know how to regulate, and then we have a CPI call, where we're pulling 4 to 6 staff members to respond to a CPI call where they might have to be leaving classrooms, where student learning is being halted or impacted by that, where a child might get to the point of having to be restrained, and then 4 staff members who are having to monitor that and record that, and those things go to the state. So, doing something like this preventatively, that's the hope, is that it's not taking away from learning, and it's able to keep staff members in their classrooms with the students as well.
So if a kid gets attached to this during the school year and then say for summer break or on vacation, they're out forever and they need a space, there's not a space, what tools are they supposed to do that? I mean, if they get attached to a tier, they go somewhere they don't have it, what are they supposed to do then?
Well, I think that using the word attached is not necessarily the best way to describe it. It's not attachment to a certain thing. Yes, we have tools in there, but some of the tools are sitting and maybe putting headphones on, closing their eyes, and breathing. That's one of the biggest things in there that we're trying to teach them, is just some calming techniques that they can use that they know are going to calm them down. Whether it be listening to music, coloring, all of those, so it's not like they have to walk around with a big bucket of moon stand because that's the only thing that helps them. We all have mechanisms that we utilize to calm ourselves when we've had a bad day or a bad time. We may, go home and rock. We may go home and listen to music. We may go home without any sound on in our vehicle because we can't handle anything more. So we all naturally have developed strategies and techniques to cope with those times in our life where we're stressed. And so we're just trying to help these students get that. So again, I think that we can't err on the fear that they won't have it when they need it by not giving them anything at all. So we need to offer and teach, and our goal is to have them develop these strategies so that they know that they're going to work, and they're not necessarily having to walk around with a fidget spinner for the rest of their life, but that they start to realize that there are things out there that they can do that will help.
How much are they being used?
Well, like she said, we've had the 3-4 is the only one that we have up right now. And we got it started, and I got all of the classrooms trained right after the fourth 9 weeks started. So we have somebody at least once a day. They have to sign out sheet, the adult does, and kind of because of the grant, all things they've worked on. So we've had at least, I'd say, a half a dozen kids on a regular basis that are going in there and using it for different reasons. We thought we would have a lot more kids just going like, woohoo, I'm gonna go out there and hang out. But when they realize that there's a little bit of work involved, because they have to really identify all of those different things.
That's where I was going next, is
No.
if it's being used.
No, and that's one, if you look at the procedures that I gave to the classroom teachers, the teachers have to be cognizant of whether the kid's trying to get out of something or not. And we didn't talk about it here, but one of the other things prior to this is a card where they just ask if they can get up and take a walk, if they can ask to go get a drink, where they're not actually having to go into the common corner, but they can go actually leave the room. Fortunately, in the 34 wing, most of those teachers are already doing that. They'll look and they'll say, Johnny, I can tell you're getting a little agitated. Why don't you just take a walk around the building, the inside of the building, or why don't you get a drink? Why don't you go fill up your water bottle? Why don't you go sit out in the community room for a couple minutes and then come back in? But if they escalate to that point where that's not going to work, we got this. We have an adult sitting there with them, talking to them about it, and helping them to articulate what's going on in their feelings to get them back. And typically they're 10 minutes out of the classroom versus where if it escalates to a full CPI call, that is clearing that whole classroom. All of those kids come out and we deal with that.
CPI just is crisis prevention intervention, in case you're wondering what that means.
And to your point as well, I think it might be in some of the testimonials, but one of the things they also talked about is, we also want students to build community and trust and self-advocacy. So they want you to let students use it when they ask, because that's also teaching them, hey, if I voice something that I need, that they're gonna listen. And so a lot of times they saw, in the first 3 or 4 weeks, maybe it might seem kind of abused or overused, but it's also just giving those kids that reassurance that if and when I need help, it's gonna be given to me. And so they've seen that kind of dissipate. So we have been fortunate, I think, how they had it set up, and doing the training, and even some students saying, there's nothing here that's gonna help me, but by the end of going through stations and rating things, just getting more awareness of their own bodies and feelings and what was gonna help them.
So all this, just to clarify, all the students have gone through what
All of the students in the 3-4 community, I set up times with each individual classroom, and the students and the teacher. And then I set up centers with a variety of, I think we had 7 different types of things that we could use, tools per se. And then the kids had to go through it, and then they had to grade it. I had a grading sheet and say, no, that wouldn't work for me, or yes, that would work for me. And then they kind of had to fill out a final ticket saying, if I'm feeling this way, these are the things that I think would help me. And to kind of alleviate some of your concerns, one of the biggest things that they liked was what we call the 5-star breathing, where they have to trace their hand, and when they're going up, they're breathing in, and when they're going down, they're breathing out. And it's just teaching them the speed of moving their finger. And I thought a lot of them, because they're young, were gonna think that was silly, and they will.
So my next part of that question then, as you work to implement this, is there time periods throughout the course of the year where, I'll just use Mrs. here, yes, SSA, are they going to, is there a staff training where they might start a day out or a time period before you engage in a testing
Prior to the
situation?
SSAs,
So that they can teach the kids to kind of lose that anxiety that goes along with.
well, I know last year during PSSA times, they did do some things prior to the testing to kind of work out all of that,
We're doing that.
grade-wise or community-wise.
We do time in the gym, time with Mrs. Lowry doing some rhythm music type things, time with Blogger, and they get breakfast. So they have 4 stations that they have in the morning before testing.
So different things to.
We've been doing that we've been doing that for 2 or 3 years.
Right. But certainly it would still be available to at least that wing. I mean, this summer I'll be coming in to set up the other wings and get everything else. We're still waiting on some of the supplies, but before we had the tent actually set up about a week before we actually did the training, and we didn't let anyone in there because we wanted them to realize the whole use behind it and the purpose behind it before they started getting in there.
And I think the education piece of it with the students and the teachers was a huge piece for not abusing it. Like, it made them understand this isn't just a play area, that there's a reason that we do it. And so far, it's going well.
And they almost in every class, they said, so can anybody go in it? Because, they're all used to having somebody come and go and that kind of thing, and you're like, anybody.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
One last thing, I think moving forward, I'd definitely like to see a more concrete plan of a transition between elementary to high school, because I can foresee a lot of issues being created for Bill and Minnie and the other administration at the high school, that they're not there, they're changing environments for a different building, totally. So rather than just, we'll cross that bridge when we get there answer, I'd like to see a more concrete plan in place.
So the one thing I will say, that was something that I did talk to Christy about last year, with being able to grow it. And I have consulted and talked to the other school psychologists in the county who have it. I know one, just full transparency, said elementary is great, but high school is harder because of, again, having a staff member. So that is the one beautiful thing here. We have a little more flexibility with the community spaces, and ensuring that we're not tying a certain staff member to having to be there at all times and who's gonna cover that. And so obviously the high school, just the setup of it is so different, so it would have to be in a space. In terms of, more of the special ed side, that is something that I know that we're building, but there's also no reason that couldn't be used. So even if it's not related to the grant or if the grant stops, although I can foresee it continuing to go, even if that's something that, we would have to look at funding. I mean, it's not a lot of really expensive items, and at that point, if they've come through the elementary and have those tools and they're kind of minimal, then we could use that. But that's something we definitely talked about, but we're also trying to be cognizant of our principals and the use of staff and what that looks like.
Well, and one of the other things they do is if you can't come up with a specific space, one of the other things that they talk about a lot is that each individual teacher would then have their own common space within the classroom. So it is a small area within the room where it may just be a chair that's back up in the corner and.
Like the last district that, for next year, they do not have a space readily available. So she actually said what they're doing are having the calling cards. So the same sort of concept. That's why, like, even one of the reasons in the kindergarten room, also knowing they need more supervision, that just the space down in that wing, we don't have as much space. So there's gonna be bins with items and things that are taught. So it can all look different without having to be like a physical room.
It isn't the idea in this is that we're teaching them a skill that they will be able to do without these particular
Correct.
Yes.
facilities. The idea is they're learning it now
Yeah.
so they can self-regulate as they get older, and hopefully they grow out of some of this.
And a lot of times, I will say, even without having the space, you know, by 7 to 12, they're pretty good at, again, with that self-advocacy. If they say, like, I need to go see Mrs. Irwin or Mrs. Lowe, like, that is that point where maybe they're not regulating well in the classroom anymore, and they know they need to kind of take a break somewhere.
I try to think about it, to answer your question, I try to think about it like reading. We teach a lot of reading here at the elementary school, but when we get to high school, reading goes away. Because those kids have already learned how to read. So when we're thinking about this aspect, once the kids get to high school, those kids are gonna be the ones that are coming to identify, be able to have an IEP, be able to get their individual needs met, that are being addressed in the comment that they weren't able to learn. That's what we're trying to think of in high school, because we're not just thinking about doing like calming corners and things like that. It's really looking at those kids' individual needs and what they're gonna need once they get to the high school, because they're not able to learn at the elementary. One other thing I wanna say, and by the way, nice to meet you all, I'm Brandon, I'm from the IU. So one thing coming into the district and really looking at the emotional disturbance side of special education. This district, and I've only been here since October, but this district's demographics have changed a lot. And when I say a lot, I'm talking, I pulled up the numbers today. Right now, we have 17 students that are identified as that having an emotional disturbance. In the last 10 years, we've had a total of 22 kids that are identified as an emotional disturbance that are now coming along. If you really think about that, in 10 years, there were 22. Now there are 17 active in here. So I really like the idea. I mean, I came in after the calling corners have come in, but I think of it also as like title support. You know, we see these kids that are struggling with reading, we're giving them some support prior to coming to the special education side and getting identified with a disability. And that's kind of what the calming corners are for, because they're for everyone. Title, you know, we really identify those kids that are struggling in reading, and we give them that support to be able to hopefully not get them to have a disability, you know, be identified as a disability, to give them interventions, things that they need. So if you think about it compared to like the different academic interventions, it's really just that behavioral intervention. We are bringing a emotional support classroom to the high school next year, just because we have so many identified kids in our district with an emotional disturbance, that we want to get them back here to the district so they're in their community. You guys have any other questions for me specifically on the special ed side?
Good. I think you did a good job of
Thank you.
explaining it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate you taking the time to come tonight and talk about it. Okay, so we have one other presentation this evening. We have Mrs. Carrie Forsythe, who is our IU6 early intervention teacher. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about Head Start and pre-K classrooms.
Hello, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and share some information with all of you. I've been a special education teacher with IU6 for the last 24 years. And of those last 18 years, I've spent housed here at ACV Valley as the early intervention teacher. And in short, early intervention is special education services for our students between the ages of 3 and then as they transition into school age. In the past 18 years, a lot has changed within the dynamics of my group. When I first started here 18 years ago, I had 12 students on my caseload, and I now have 34. The need for early intervention services and special education services has really grown over the past few years. And we could spend hours discussing the many reasons why, but we are not able to change those outside situations. What we're able to change and address are what happens within the walls of our classrooms in our school building. So I just want to share some demographics and some statistics of our local programs, just to give you some information as you're planning for programming throughout the next few years. So currently, our pre-K counts classroom, it is a grant-funded program, and it is housed here at AC Valley as well. It is considered a Reg Ed classroom. Currently, there are 16 students in there, and four of the 16 students are on an IEP. At our local Head Starts, right up the road in the old St. Pete Elementary building, there are 16 students up there. 11 are identified currently on an IEP. As we're looking at students transitioning to kindergarten next year, I understand that currently we have 36 students officially registered for kindergarten next year. I believe, Lori, 36.
Yeah, that's in my report. There were 37 that sent packets back and 32 attended registration. The other 5 were unable to come in those 2 days and will come this summer with the summer registrants.
Okay.
So 37 have officially.
37 plus the whatever we get this summer.
And those, of course, those are kids that, of course, have been registered and are not moving into the district that are currently here and we're aware of. This year, between the speech therapist, the early intervention speech therapist, and myself, we transitioned 16 students from our program into, they're going into kindergarten next year. And if you look at that, that's 44% of the incoming classroom potentially coming in on an IEP. Now, they may not qualify, but they would still be in an at-risk group because identification in the early intervention program is different than identification in the school-age program. There's different requirements that are needed, and Anna, of course, the psychologist, she goes through the whole battery of tests for them. The state target for special education is 18%, and we're looking at a projected possible 44%. And I also want to say that these are students that are currently identified. These are not students that might pop in, we kind of have some transient families that pop in and out of districts. We're not talking about possible students that may be coming in off the street. We've been seeing this trending for many, many years, but I'll tell you, it really came to light for me this year. We use what's called the Battelle Developmental Inventory, and that is the assessment that we use to identify students in early intervention to qualify for services. Because it's a norm reference standardized assessment, every 25 years, they have to norm reference the test, which means they give it to thousands of children. It has to be conducted in the same manner, same materials, it's supposed to be standardized, just like our PSSAs. They do it across demographics, ethnicities, culture, social economical status. But what's very interesting to me this year, when we moved from the BDI-2, which was the second edition that we used up until last year, and we came into the BDI-3 this year, if you look at overall functioning of a typical, and I'm talking typical, a typical norm reference 3, 4, and 5-year-old, their overall independent functioning level was at a much higher rate 25 years ago than it is currently. And what's scary to me and what's scary to all of us is that if you were to look, so for example, if 25 years ago, a 5-year-old was coming in with these independent skills, and it's across all 5 developmental domains, which is adaptive, which is their self-help skills, their self-care, they're able, dress independently, brush their teeth, eat and drink, advocate for themselves, things like that. Self-regulate. Their motor skills, gross motor, fine motor, perceptual motor. Cognitive skills, how they access and receive information. and process information. Personal social skills, how they interact with others, and then of course their speech and language skills, their communication. So across those 5 domains, we have seen a true decrease in overall functioning and skill level. So 25 years ago, independent levels were here, and what was asked of kindergartners was perhaps here. Now, 25 years later, we're coming in with independent skills and levels here. However, what's being accepted, or what's being, asked of them at this time is here. And that is a very large bridge to build. I just want to share this information because we are seeing more and more students come in, and I'm so thrilled about the common areas. We're seeing students that do not have the ability to self-regulate, that do not have the ability to attend, that are lacking intense communication skills, where they are not socializing with others and they're not able to express how they're feeling, or in basic communication, sometimes just their basic wants and needs, which is a very frustrating one for any individual that can't express their wants and needs. So I just wanted to share some of this information so that everybody is aware of our incoming students and where they are. And I say all the time, if you think of even a typical kiddo, I don't know exactly how much, but I'm assuming it's probably around $300,000 that it would take to educate a student from kindergarten through 12th grade. I mean roughly, but is that about it? I don't know. It's probably a lot. So I always think of building a house. If you had a budget, and we're looking at building a budget to build a house, we really want to put so much of that into the foundation and into the beginning and pack it in tight. Pack it in tight in the very early years, because statistically, students that are not achieving academic success by 3rd grade, there's a very small window of success later. Any remediations, again, if you speak to any OT, PT, emotional support, psychology, those formative years are very, very important. And I'm just a true believer in early intervention, and I just wanted to share some information with you guys so you can make some, have some information as you're moving forward and thinking about allocations or whatever.
One quick question. The
Yes,
Head
please.
Start 11 IEPs, are those all pre-kindergarten? I mean, are those ones who will be going into kindergarten this coming year, or
Not all.
at what age do you assign an IEP? You
They-
give a 3-year-old an IEP?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But it's different.
Right, there is the infant toddler program through the state, which a student, a child would receive services for any form of developmental delay.
Okay.
Yes, so, and children at that time, between the infant toddler program, the birth to 3 program, if they're still qualifying for services 60 days prior to their 3rd birthday, we start assessing, because there is never a gap in service. If those students still qualify, the day they turn 3, they leave that program and step right into our program, so there's never any lapse in services.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to board concerns. Anybody have any? I just want to remind everybody that Advocacy Day is tomorrow. If you got signed up, or there are webinars tomorrow, so you get a chance to attend those. I also need you to think about, I have a gentleman who was recommended by Attorney Kuhar that could provide us with some board training this summer. So I talked with him about possibly a date in July for 2 hours. If you could think about some days that you might be available. I know with vacations and everything, that's going to be iffy, but he does this kind of thing. He works for Edinburgh College. He's a professor there. He does PSBA trainings. and he can talk to us about some of our roles and responsibilities, just kind of a review, evaluation, doing evaluations of different personnel. So if you could think about your calendars and give me a few dates that I can send to him, and we can maybe get that scheduled sometime in July. That would be helpful. Patty.
I'm gonna just throw this out there based on the two presentations you just had. So, the statistic that Carrie left us with, I don't even remember what year it was, but that's where it just had theirs. But the Clarence Promise group that was enacted is still kind of functioning as a disciplinary, human services agency. They share connections. So Maria's first program was part of the original pieces of those as well. But with what she just shared on the statistics, it's not gonna get better. So as a board, as a district, we need to figure out how to get those parent advocates, we need to get the community engaged in that younger group to help to provide those support characteristics for those students. So I'll throw that out there as we think about considerations that are very challenging for us right now, because I know some of the conversations that happened tonight, those all.
Okay, any other board concerns? Okay, we'll move forward with the consent agenda. Are there any items you would like pulled from the consent agenda to be voted on separately? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move
Thank
approve
you.
the consent agenda.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Meg, you are on finance and purchase.
A consideration to approve paying bills for April 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Yes. Is there a program report? We have. Okay. But do I just say consideration?
We usually do A, B, and C all as one, or well, just tonight, we just have to do A and B, but yeah. There really isn't anything we have to approve with B.
Okay. So consideration to approve B for the first program report for March 2023.
No, it's just a report for us. Yeah, you're good, Meg.
I'm short on sleep.
Understand.
Okay, C, cafeteria and National School Lunch Report, Mrs. Redding.
I can't believe that we're towards the end of the school year. Usually April's a little easier than it was this year, but the power outages were probably some of the most challenging things I've dealt with ever as far as our cafeteria. I would like to throw out to the board that neither our fridges nor our freezers in either building are on a generator. Which until this all happened, I didn't know. And when I asked the question up top, the compatibility is fine, but it's not a big enough generator to run the communication. It was the communication, the lights and the heat, it won't run both at once, right? The guy's full. And down here, they're not, what we use to run the rest of the building isn't compatible to run what's in the cafeteria down here. We were very fortunate in that the second time around, we did not lose our freezer in either building. The refrigerator stayed cold enough long enough to keep the freezers cold enough long enough. But the first power outage, we lost everything in the refrigerator the first time, and I have attached or passed out to you, there is an inventory, I believe, of both days. So what was in the refrigerator and what's up top, because it isn't just what's still in the refrigerator. It's everything we pulled out on Friday to serve on Monday, the breakfast sandwiches that were made, the labor, all of that. When I turned around and a week later, I lost everything in the fridge up top and the fridge down below this time, but we were able to keep the freezer. So I really would like to see if there's a possibility of maybe at least getting down here on some sort of generator, because we can fit what's at the high school and the elementary. But the fridge and freezer up top are very, very small, and they won't go that way, so it's just something that I asked for. So it wasn't just the loss, it was also the staff coming in, throwing it away, washing the dishes, cleaning the refrigerator and freezer, trying to figure out what to pull and how to plan meals. So connectivity said, I really don't want to cancel because of food. So we came in and we figured out, it's like, okay, if we do a 2-hour delay tomorrow and I can serve sandwiches at lunch and a full breakfast the next day, and we have power, we're good to go. But I can only do that 1 or 2 days, and then we also, of course, we lost all of our milk, so there was no way to serve a breakfast at all. So that was something that has happened in the last few weeks that I hadn't thought of, planned on, prepared for, even knew was a possibility, but now we do. So we were really fortunate, and maintenance has been a huge, huge, huge help with that, but it was incredibly challenging.
So can I ask, is there a emergency plan in place, like do you have a plan on, like there's trucks and trailers that can come in and provide that cooler space, freestanding, it's gonna cover the cost, but it might prevent that loss in the future, is there a plan for that without having to have,
I don't
Unless you
know,
have something.
without having a generator on site? Because so then you have the overall cost of a generator, you only have a fraction of the rental on those vehicles to sit in the parking lot, so.
no, that's kind of other things. I, to be honest with you, I don't even know what not thought about it, not looked at it, didn't know, like I said, until this last couple of weeks, I didn't even know what could happen. So, that's why I was putting out there that it would be.
So I know that EMS has a list of where actual generators that can come from are, so it's on a team that identifies.
He came and
those.
presented here too
Right,
earlier this year.
Right, so what I'm suggesting is that in the future, to be preemptive on this, is to identify where those might be. Because you could bring them in and run them for enough time to get it up to speed, remove it or keep it if you needed to, and have that as a backup without having to.
And I don't carry an excessive inventory, I order weekly.
Right.
So, which I'm really glad because.
And you have
that
control that has it on that side too, so
Right,
that's
so
why I'm
that's,
saying a truck or something that came in.
well, that's one reason we kind of let that generator there go, like, pull the stuff out right away, because, it wasn't cold enough, it was 45, so it wasn't cold enough to keep our things there, but it was cold enough to keep the freezer cold enough, it was like 31, it was right there, but we were able to keep those, so we were able to keep our freezer right on.
So something in the future that might be worth it.
Good idea.
That's why I was asking, because I had no idea where to even start.
I have 2 questions. Was this submitted to the insurance?
The first one was, but I wasn't sure about the second one because it was a power, I don't know. David was a doctor, but wasn't sure if they could both go or not.
Yeah, we have 2 different claims
Yeah.
being billed.
The second claim we're not able to get reimbursed on because we have a $2,500 deductible. And it is not, it didn't meet the deductible. And then the second part is, if we need a generator for in there, is it like $1,000 generator or is it like a $15,000 generator that you would need to run?
I would assume it's gonna be a big.
I'm assuming it's gonna be a really pricey one, which, if they
Yeah,
ask us.
I would, you're probably about $100,000 range or so.
God,
Okay, but your
This
method
is
is
like
much
Right.
less. and it
I've
was
been,
that
31
you
years,
can-
this situation, our freezers and coolers are usually good for 2 to 3 days. Right? In 31 years, this has maybe happened once or twice, so it's not a big, sometimes you'll have power at one of the schools. And maybe the high school will be out because of the woods out there, how these don't have. We've had bring food from one school down before.
Yeah, they did that.
We did that in the first round. So it's something that this was just a unique situation that is out longer than what we anticipated. We're looking into seeing what we can do generator wise.
And then if they have that grant that I've been writing for the last couple of years, I'm going to try and write a grant and see if that would be considered kitchen equipment. And if I can throw it in there, I'll find out and see what happens. I don't know if they'll go for it, but it's not a structure. So I'm gonna look into that.
I would
too.
say based on what's been happening, based on the workforce right now with the electric companies, it's gonna happen more.
We did get
Unfortunately.
a lot of the schools that we can move in high school, like she says, the Kohler's creative spaces are much smaller than here. So this makes more sense to get this building on a generator.
Something in.
We're looking into it, it's just something we can't do immediately.
But I just didn't want to make the board aware because it wasn't even something that even crossed my mind, you know? Power goes out, generator comes on, we're good. No, no, we were not. So that was something that I wanted to make aware. I went to my 2 conferences for the Pennsylvania Regional Food Service Director, and this year they received money. I'm not sure from what, but they received money, and because I did attend the 2 board meetings this year, my membership next year is free. So, that will cost us a $500 fee. And then the PDE requires a meal pricing calculator every year for non-students and adults. I went through and did the calculations. The cost of breakfast will need to go up 5 cents, which is $1.90, but we are 20 cents below the minimum on lunch. So our lunch prices for, it would be non-students, so we're talking adults, visitors, and the pre-K and Head Start, they will all go to $3.75. And then the Head Start's lunch, because of the increased cost of food, will go to $2.10. So when you see the price increases, it's not something I choose, but PDE does an adult meals pricing calculator, and it takes your state reimbursement plus your lowest federal reimbursement for a paid meal, plus the commodity rate that we get to a subtotal, which is $1.17, and then you add the highest paid rate meal for a student, which is $2.55. That comes out to $3.72, and you cannot round down. I prefer not to mess with pennies, so they're rated at like $3.75. So that's how those numbers are brought up. They're not something that we do randomly, but they do put those out every year. We have, as of right now, I don't believe we're going to have to increase the cost for students at all. But Andrea and I got an email this week for a paid lunch equity tool. It's something that we have to look at, we send back, and depending on what they say to us, depends on whether or not we have to do that paid lunch tool. And we go and we put our money there, it will again tell us if we, where we come out on our budget, if I have to increase or if I don't. If we don't have to increase, I truly don't want to for the students. We still don't know if we're paying for breakfast or not next year. Some are saying we really want to keep free breakfast. We've got some fighting because they want breakfast and lunch, and then we've got that one saying we don't want any of it at all. So until I agree more on that, I have absolutely no idea what's going on next year. So in other words, I don't really know what kind of things I did last month, but it's all coming to a close. And I also included our CEP numbers for this year, which is your community eligible provision, where you have to meet a minimum of 40% of your students qualifying for free meals directly certified through the state. That's through SNAP, TANF, homeless, foster, those kind of things where they directly certified through the state. A lot of them have the meal cards or the food stamps, those type of things. Our numbers of those students are not very high. And then actually this packet shows all the districts, A to Z through the state, who qualifies, who doesn't, and you can look down and see that, we're at 37.32%. And then you'll go down and you'll look at another school district in the area that surprised me, that's at a 63%. I thought, now how can they be at 63 and we're at 37? It's people who are willing to go into the assistant's office, fill out that paperwork, get assistance. That assistance is what directly certifies them into our free lunch program. Income-based does not count. Your reduced students do not count towards that number. It is free based on those SNAP certifications, directly certified. So until our community that does qualify, and I am certain would qualify, will go in and apply for state benefits, we are not going to meet that minimum percentage. And like I said, they can fill out a paper application for me, but that's still not going to be a directly certified student.
Is that something we could have somebody come here and set up and do, or they only do it at the offices?
I don't know the answer to that, but even outside of them going in for benefits, it has taken me all of the last month of school to finally get a student, parents, to fill out a free reduced lunch application and he did qualify as reduced, but he was almost $250 in, or he was $250 and some odd cents in arrears to the school district. They wouldn't pay, but they absolutely did not put their income down on that piece of paper.
I know we've had that, we talked about that previous years that we've tried to.
And, you know, I put it in the mail, I put notes, I make phone calls, and all we want to try and do is help. We have a student right now, we could qualify as homeless. We know she lives with a grandparent. We know dad lives somewhere else, but they absolutely will not tell us. We know, but no, dad pays for everything, and he buys the meals, and he packs her lunch, and no, he's here, and he only goes there on the weekends, and they don't tell the paperwork. This absolutely will not do it, and it won't get them in trouble. There's no CYS interference, there's nothing. It's just us trying to help you get help, and absolutely positively will not budge on that. So until we can convince people, and I don't know how to go about doing that. Until we convince them that if they go get those benefits, it helps out the entire community, we are never going to be at minimum wage. And that's just kind of where we are. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Letter D, consideration to approve purchasing a 10-passenger van using funds from the SF3 grant.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Didn't we try to purchase one, I don't know, a year or so ago? A little over a year, we just couldn't.
Yeah, Mark's been working on it. Do you want to provide just a?
They opened a window up for government programs, like, so they open a window up, maybe open up in May, and they'll may close it by the end of May. So we have to, that's why it's on the agenda to get approved, because whenever it comes up, when the window's open that we can order a van, we have to jump on it right away.
Okay.
And right now, Ford is the only one making a 10-passenger van. With at least stipulations that we have to, the required type of van is it's gotta be a high van, it's gotta have four wheels. That's the only van manufactured that passes federal school laws.
Okay, and you're still planning on keeping the old one until it dies, or?
Yeah, the school board.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
D, consideration to approve reimbursing local tax collectors for a total of $233.20 for costs incurred regarding software and including installation needed for real estate taxes as follows. Jennifer Pollock, $116.60. Judy Shiring, $116.60.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
F, consideration to approve removing Courtney Chalmers from the high school money market and student activities account for Farmers National Banks.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? It's because of a change in position, so. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
G, consideration to approve to adding Emily Shoemaker to the high school money market student activities account for Farmers National Banks.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Again, position moved. That's why we're making the changes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration, or H, consideration to approve raising the cost of breakfast and lunch for Jefferson County Head Start and pre-K counts, breakfast by 5 cents and lunch by 20 cents, each beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. New prices will be as follows: breakfast $2.10 and lunch $3.75. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I, consideration to approve raising the cost of breakfast and lunch for adult pricing, non-students and adults in the ACV district, breakfast by 5 cents and lunch by 20 cents, each beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. New prices will be as follows: breakfast $1.90 and lunch $3.75.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
J, consideration to approve via correspondence the request from Megan Parker, Director of the Clarendon County Tax and Bureau, regarding the procedure to delete and exonerate taxes on property, for example, trailers, porches, decks, sheds, etc., that are no longer in existence in the amount of $500 or under as attached.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? That's just the notification, so sending it out for every little bit. Just gonna notify us once it gets to that amount. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, consideration to approve the designated assigned and unassigned 2022-2023 fund balance report to be distributed prior to the April 17th regular meeting.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
L, discussion related to a preliminary review of the 2023-2024 budget to be distributed prior to the April 17th regular meeting.
Second.
Okay? We are going to,
I got a PowerPoint
you say you have a presentation for us?
A high-level overview, and then,
I'm going to move.
once I'm finished with my piece, then Andrea will take it through into the budget. So just keep in mind that these are preliminary numbers. We're not exactly sure the amount of revenues we're getting from the state right now, because we have a proposed budget in front of you. We took those numbers from Governor Shapiro's presentation. There's also the General Assembly and the administration meeting in Harrisburg to review the Commonwealth Court regarding the most recent school funding lawsuit. So there's potential additional money coming in. So there's a lot of work, a lot of advocacy going on right now that's tied into this budget. And then as we work our way through this budget this evening, there's some alarming numbers in there, and just want to focus in on exactly what we do here at ACV. I've got the mission statement, and then it will follow with the vision statement. Just keep in mind that the principals utilize the mission statement on a daily basis. The mission is what we're doing today to meet our goals down the road, and that's the vision statement. And those two items have been part of our comprehensive plan for over a decade right now. So we tweak it periodically, but for the most part, that's what we've been doing. And we focused in the college and career readiness way before the state even passed Act 158. And ultimately, the third bullet up from the bottom, that's our number one goal, is to help the parents raise children to be productive members of society. The budget timeline that we approved a few months back. Just keep in mind that Andrea and I met with all the department chairs and managers and principals, and we've been working on this budget since March. This evening, both Andrea and I are presenting. In May, we'll approve the final budget. It will go on public display for 30 days. And then June 15th, we'll have our June school board meeting. We'll approve that, and it is by law that we have it submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education by June 3rd. This is an interesting slide right here, and I've been running this since 06-07 because that's the first year that I came to AC Valley. So you can see from the year prior, we were at 949 students. In total, from that date down to the 22-23 school year, as of March, you can see we're down 363 students. But I also put on the other slide, which that's a little bit tough for you to see, but I have homeschool and outside cyber education numbers up there as well. At one time, homeschool didn't really have much of an impact on the overall budget here, but with the new fair funding formula, they basically there's a number of different factors, but just the simplified version, they take the overall budget and divide it into the number of students. So we're down 49 students that are at homeschool right now. And then also, don't forget about the outside cyber. We have 37 students in outside cyber, and I'm going to review some numbers here shortly as far as how much money we're paying out, and the reason why we put a motion down to increase taxes to the index to help cover the cost of these cyber students that are in outside cyber. Just keep in mind, we run our own cyber. We also work in conjunction with Titusville at Rock Cyber, and I have those numbers up there as well. We have two me start over. We have 11 students in IU classrooms. We have 2 students in alternative ed, and then we also have 9 students in our program. So overall, we theoretically have 685 students here within the district. There are just 86 that are not counted for in our daily average membership. And then we also review the staff in here. We have 1 superintendent, 2 principals, a business manager. Currently, we have 58 teachers. That's 1 elementary math coach, K4 through ESSER. We have 8.4 aides. We have 8 full-time aides. 1 is the Title 8, and then 7 full-time child-specific aides, and then a couple part-time. We have 2 school nurses, excuse me, an athletic director. We don't have a trainer at this time, but we do have money in the budget for a trainer for next year if we do find the right person. We have 2 counselors, 1 intervention specialist, 2 librarians. Technology and maintenance, we share a person here, and this has been going on since before I started. So James works a little bit with technology as well as supporting Mark and the maintenance department. 8 full-time custodians, 3 part-time, 1 school site, 20 hours a week. We have the special ed director from IU, Brandon, who you met this evening. We do have a social worker to offer additional supports as our previous presenters had shared some of the needs. We have 1 part-time study hall monitor. We did advertise the ad, and we haven't received any applicants. We have 1 attendance officer, 4 full-time secretaries, 2 part-time secretaries, and over the years, we've cut back on those full-time secretaries, so, they're doing more with less. We have 1 cafeteria supervisor, 1 full-time cafeteria staff member, and then 9 part-time. We have a school police officer, and then we have the contract with the Emlenton Police Department, and that does not include all the coaches and the co-ops. So what changes in the budget? This year, we're paying 34% retirement. So for every dollar that we pay out of salary, 34 cents in addition goes into retirement, and I have those numbers broken down. Healthcare is increasing by 4.54%. IU costs for a lot of the students that are out in special programs and other services is just under $500,000. Our career center, the cost went up. Keep in mind that all 7 schools in Clarence County help to run that career center, so we take the overall operating cost divided by the number of students. Last year, we had 44 students going up there, or this current year, and then next year, we're anticipating 54 students. So those outside cyber costs that I talked about earlier, keep in mind the elementary, we're anticipated to spend $242,638, and at the junior senior high school, we'll be spending $511,235. So please tell your neighbor, tell your friends, cyber school is not free. There's nothing free about it. We're spending just about $20,000 per year on a general education student. Your taxpayer money is going to Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and all the Pittsburgh area, and the costs continue to increase. So if we had our own kids, if those students want to have a different alternative education, we provide the exact same education as what these outside schools charge at a fraction of the cost. They're part of our average daily membership, and it's a win-win for the district and everybody else. So when I hear people promoting these outside cyber schools, it just makes me cringe. Moving on, outside student placements, so students that are outside of the district here, we're spending $336,665. The state revenue and federal revenue changes each year, and Andrew's going to dive into that a little bit more deeper. The local taxes with the preliminary budget, and we'll be seeking your guidance, but we have our revenue set at the max index of 5.5%. Just keep in mind that multi-county schools also fall under Act 672, and what that does is that rebalances the taxes and when you're in one county. So theoretically, 2 of our counties go up some, 2 go down. And information that came from PASBO said that our cyber school costs outpaced our taxation by 153%. In this budget, we also going to be spending out the ESSER free money. We have 2 aides, 1 at the high school, 1 at the elementary, the social worker, the occupational therapist, elementary math coach. the band that we'll approve this evening, summer remediation, AC Valley, cyber to help offset those costs, professional development, and after-school remediation. Last year, we were able to use ESSER 3 to help offset the cost of 3 teachers. That went away, and these 3 teachers will be underneath the district. And then with our push for ongoing learning and technology integration and distance learning, we've been adding and improving our technology here. So we've been spending about $50,000 a year out of ESSER 3. That goes away. And that's the one area that we can fluctuate. We met with the technology department. So we do have $40,000 in here to continue to upgrade and replace a lot of these Chromebooks that are meeting the end of their lives. So that's something, if there's any wiggle room in here, I did talk to Jeff and Aaron about that initially. I said, let's leave the money in there at $40,000. We can continue to upgrade our technology. That's an option if we want to pull that out or not. And then also with building this budget, we do not have the one staff member. We had Jamie Simpson resigned and we brought in a long-term sub. We don't have an additional staff member because we're going to go through the bidding process. I don't know exactly where that person will end up if we add them, but before we decide to have that conversation, let's wait till the end of the presentation. So just as a informational piece, that's where we're at. 22-23 school year, those are the mills per county. Again, we're in 4 different counties, Armstrong, Butler, Clarendon, and Venango. Now we have a little bit of a comparative analysis here from last year into next school, or this year, I'm sorry, into next school year. As you can see, the salary and benefits went up $574,080, and you can see where it's broken down through. You know, I talked about retirement earlier, about 34 cents on every dollar. You can see what we're paying into employee retirement, unemployment, workers' comp, and such. Health-related information, it went up 4.2% the previous year, and then next year we're anticipating 4.54%, which is a total increase of $99,172. And then this breaks it down a little bit. I provided some information as far as the students that we have here at AC Valley as well as outside. So what we do is try to meet the students at the least restricted environment. So the number one goal is to have the students here at AC Valley, provide them with the best education possible. As students continue to progress and have different disabilities or behavioral issues, sometimes we can't keep the kids here. We do our very best. It's in our best interest to keep them here, but we have 2 kids going to Glade Run next year. You can see the cost of just over $73,000. 3 students are going to New Story. That's $198,000. Kids Piece is a new program to me. It's $32,000 a year. The Bradley Center, we have 1 student at just over $32,000. And then here's some of those outside cyber for the elementary and high school as well. So as you can tell, we have 40 students outside the district, and the cost is just over $1 million. As I referred to the outside cyber rates, they came down just slightly from last year, but just under $20,000 for gen ed and just under $40,000 for students with special ed. And as you can see, our inside cyber as well as the rock, it cost us about $3,500 to educate the kids on the exact same online platform as was Agora, PA Cyber, and the whole list of cyber schools. Cafeteria projection, just keep in mind that the cafeteria budget is a fiduciary budget and it's separate and set aside from our current budget. So what we're anticipating for next school year is a loss of $117,000 to operate the cafeteria. We take money out of the general fund to help supplement that. You can tell that 21-22 school year, we had a good year. That's whenever the students had free breakfast and lunch and we got paid, for that, so it helped to offset those losses. Last year, well, 22-23, it was a loss expected of $92,000, and then next year, $117,000. So hold on to your seats because the total operating budget that I presented to you this evening, we have an expected revenue, which is down just slightly, $15,454,045. Projected expenditure, $17,091,474. So we're over budget right now of $1,637,429. And just keep in mind, that's the projection, the recommendation to raise taxes to the index and that one staff member. Outside of that, we didn't cut anything, we haven't reduced, we've been maintaining the current the current supplies that we had since 2010. So those teachers, both at the elementary and high school, are basically working off of the exact same amount of supplies. And I think for the most part, they're able to maintain, but we haven't increased our supply budget literally at all. With textbook rotation periodically, which we talk about, science textbooks, and they're in this budget too, and we'll break that down a little bit further. So moving forward, if just like your own budget at home, if you can't pay the bills, and then pull from the fund reserve to offset the cost of it. So currently, we have $2,901,961. We're anticipating a shortfall because we were able to use some of the ESSER money to help offset the cost this year of $563,488. And those are just some of the other areas that we had designated. So at the end of the 23-24 school year, we're anticipating having $2,651,513 remaining. So what does that do for the future? Andrea and I pulled together this slide right here. You can tell if we continue to trend, and we just took the $1.6 million and plugged it into 23-24 to be next year, the following year. By the 25-26 school year, we're going to have a deficit. And as we move forward, we continue to struggle with cyber charter school costs. You've seen what we have projected for 23-24. ESSER 3, the final year is 23-24. We have a football field that needs renovated, a track, a high school auditorium. This basic ed funding formula has pretty much left us in a really bad way, because since that 17-18 school year, we really haven't got any of that new money. Back in 18-19, Governor Wolf put $100 million into the budget. Philadelphia got $73.5 million, and AC Valley got $9,800. So with Hold Harmless, we have a regular amount of money coming in from the state. We get a little bit from feds, and then they're relying us on increasing our taxes to a local taxpayer to stay up with. And as I stated earlier, cyber school has outpaced all of that by 153%. We just can't stay up. And I know you met with the teachers tonight. I mean, we can't keep cutting. We're in a very difficult situation right now. Long term, and that's in there every year. We don't know what that local, state, and federal revenue looks like from year to year. We have increased healthcare costs. The teaser, there was a flat rate, I think, from last year to this year, but they told us to buck wind because it will continue to increase. We have a declining student enrollment, as you've seen earlier, and then just maintenance and upkeep of the facilities. The next step is Andrea's going to break it down in a little bit more detail. She has her own PowerPoint, and she's going to break down line items to give you a better, more grounded look on that. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Andrea.
David, could we get a copy of your PowerPoint with all those points? I'm trying to take notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Even just PDF of it.
I'm gonna jump it back. I can't scroll from over there, but the first thing I'm gonna go over is revenues, and I'm gonna go over that item by item. And this is projected with a raise to the index of 5.5%. And I just want to reiterate that this is preliminary. These numbers are moving. And since everyone has received their email copies of the budget, there's already been changes. So current real estate taxes Looking at a revenue of $3,455,000. Again, that's raising to the index. This will change. I get new assessment reports from the counties at the beginning of May. So this is very preliminary budget. We also do not know the tax reduction allocation for this year or for next year yet. My figure is just based on what we received last year. So these will move around a bit. Public utility real estate tax, just a little increase, $4,400. Payments in lieu of current taxes, $98, no change. Per capita taxes, minimal change, $10 in each category. Earned income, $450,000. Delinquent real estate taxes, $200,000. We have seen a little bit of a decrease in the collection of delinquent taxes. The per capita staying the same, $3,000. Deposits and investments, just a hair shorter than last year, $26,500. Dividends on investment, $140. Admissions and gate receipts, $12,000. State revenue for VOTEC, they're projecting $36,000. And the reason for that decrease is that the Career Center now keeps 40% of the subsidy, and that's so that money can go and help the Career Center with renovations and everything that they need there. So that's that decrease. Liquid fuels tax, $400. The access pass-through, $10,000. IDEA pass-through, $130. Contributions and donations, I took that to zero. We haven't had anything in that category for over 5 years, so I'm just gonna leave that at zero. Services provided by other government aid units. This is maybe students that we have at another district, another local district. If we have a student that maybe goes to Keystone or a student that goes to West Forest, that is what that category is. And you'll see a decrease, you'll see a decrease in that because we don't have as many students right now. Energy efficiency revenues and incentives, $3,000, and miscellaneous revenues, $500. And now the revenue from state sources. Basic education, I'm just going based off of PDE's proposed number. This could change. We don't know the state budget yet, but we're estimating $6,268,000. From that, Social Security that we get reimbursed from the state, looking about the same, $245,951. Tuition for children, the section 1305, section 1306 is for orphaned or ward of the state children. When the detention center was in Embleton, we did have revenue coming in. Some of those kids that were there were wards of the states or orphans. So you will see that number slowly declining as the years go on. Special education funding, again, this is PDE's proposed projection for next year, $783,135. Pupil transportation, $925,000. Non-public and charter transportation, $11,000. Medical and dental services, $10,550. The state property tax reduction allocation, I don't have the number, I don't even have a proposed number for next year, so.
Check the homestead form.
Yes, and that's what we received last year, so that is the number that I'm going by right now. And I did hear that that is projected to be bigger for next year, so I'm hoping for that. PCCD grant for next year, we're expecting to receive $173,434. The Ready to Learn block grant, again, this is based on last year's projection. It could change. So projecting the same, 151,489. The first program, they did receive $10,000 more than what they've received in previous years, 135,786. And then the state share of retirement contributions is about $1.2 million. Revenue from federal sources, title numbers have not been provided yet. So these numbers are the same as last year until I hear numbers. Title I, 187,882. Title II, 27,303. Title IV, 14,236. We are spending out the rest of the ARP ESSER, so we're expecting to get around $450,000 for that. We have used that a lot, which is why you'll see our revenue kind of decrease because we used a lot of that last year. Access Medicaid reimbursement, looking at $10,000. Medical assistance, $7,000. So our total revenue that we're looking at for next year is $15,454,045 compared to $15,774,988 from the previous year. And again, the majority of that is us using up that ESSER fund and spending that out. So even with, like David said, even with raising the taxes to the index, we're still not getting more revenue. And then I will dive deeper into the expenditures of the budget. Does anybody have any questions on those revenues? If anybody thinks of anything, like after tonight, once you've had time to look over everything, fully process it, feel free to email me any questions that you have. So I gave everybody a copy, and I emailed everybody the thank you line by line item of the budget. I'm gonna break this down into categories. Okay, so the 1100 category, this category is instruction, and it includes salaries and benefits for teachers, substitutes, study hall and lunch monitors. It also includes the employee assistance program, the ACV cyber costs, the outside cyber costs, and then teacher supplies, travel, conferences, educational software, and computer supplies. In 22-23, we budgeted $6,917,000. In 23-24, we're projecting to spend $6,890,000 roughly. This is showing a decrease of about $27,420. The reason for this change is many different moving parts. This includes one teacher reduction through the change that David had explained that is just uncertain, so it can always change. We had an increase in healthcare, but we also had changes in healthcare plans within the staff. So somebody who may have had a family health plan has now gone to a single health plan. So we're seeing changes like that. And then the retirement has been 35.26, and next year it's at 35%. That's the first, that's a decrease, the first one in like the last decade, I think. And then these again are just going over the outside cyber numbers again. 12 elementary students at outside cyber for about $242,638, and 21 high school students at $511,235,000. So we're looking at a total of $753,873 for outside cyber costs. The 1200 category is the special programs. This category includes salaries and benefits for the special education teachers, the autism and life skills classrooms, the aides, as well as the gifted program. This includes supplies, field trips, and travel and conferences for those programs, and it also includes the outside placements of students. In 22-23, we budgeted $2,394,434. In 23-24, we're projecting to spend $2,704,000. This is an increase of $309,722. And then again, the main reason for this increase is our outside student placement. We have 2 students going to Blade Run, 3 at New Story, 1 at the Kids Piece, and 1 at the Bradley Center, totaling $336,665. The 1300 category is vocational education. This category includes salaries and benefits for the business teachers, substitutes, and the consumer science teacher. It also covers their supplies, travel, conference, equipment maintenance and repair, and then the Clarion County Career Center. This year we had budgeted $735,913. Next year, we're looking at spending $801,131. This is an increase of $65,218. The main reason for this change is we're projecting to send more students to the Career Center next year. The number right now, and it's a moving number as well, is 54 students at a projection of $405,985. The 1400 category is other instruction, and this is all related to homebound instruction, so the salary and the travel. And there's just a slight reduction on this, and it's mostly just with the retirement piece going from the 35.26 to the 34. So this year we budgeted 6,316. Next year we're projecting 6,270. Very minimal change. The 2100 category is the support services for pupil personnel. This includes the salaries and benefits for guidance, attendance, substitutes, speech, the psychologist, and the psychologist secretary. This includes student field trips, the Focus software, and supplies, travel, conferences, and dues for those teachers. This year we projected $579,910. Next year we're projecting $625,670. This is an increase of $45,760. There's nothing really significant in the increases in this category. We do have the speech teacher at 1 day a week. When we budgeted her this year, it wasn't for a full year, so a slight increase there. And then just your normal contractual salary changes through the ladder. The 2200 category is support services instructional staff. And this is salaries and benefits for librarians and substitutes. This is all of their supplies, the books, the periodicals, audio-visual supplies. This is tuition reimbursement for staff, travel, conferences, equipment and maintenance and repair for the library, and professional development. This year we budgeted $606,522. Next year we're projecting $637,398. That's an increase of $30,876. The biggest reason for this increase is tuition reimbursement for staff. In 22-23, it was projected at $59,535, but looking at next year's numbers, it's looking like $87,396. $2,300 category is support services administration. This category includes the salaries and benefits for the central office secretary, the superintendent, school secretaries, substitutes, and principals. Equipment maintenance and repair, bonds, tax collectors commission, and tax collection audit legal fees, postage, supplies, travel, conference, dues, and memberships. This year, we're projecting to spend $869,641. Next year, we're projecting to spend $861,533. A minimal increase of $8,108. Again, this is just based on moving parts, retirement, decrease in supplies. 2400 category is the support services and pupil health. So this is the nurses, their salaries, their benefits, dues and memberships that they may need, travel, conferences, supplies, as well as the school messenger system. This year, we're projected to spend $244,124. Next year, we're projecting to spend $249,801. This is an increase of $5,677. Again, this is just contractual salary increases and some supply increases. 2500 category, support services, the business office. This is the salaries and benefits for the business manager and accounts payable. This includes the internal auditing services, any advertising, supplies, bank forms, equipment maintenance and repair, and travel and conferences. This year, we projected to spend $220,910. Next year, we're projecting to spend $224,015. This is an increase of $3,105. Again, just minimal changes, salary increases, and some rising costs of supplies. The 2600 category is operation and maintenance of plants. This category includes salaries and benefits of the operations supervisor, custodians, and grounds. It also includes utilities, gas, auto insurance, the Raptor system, the school police officer, contracted services, supplies, and equipment replacement. This year, we projected to spend $1,609,435. Next year, we're projected to spend $1,708,195. The main reason for the change in this is the huge increase in natural gas prices. In 22-23, we're paying $62,500, and we're projecting it to be $120,000 next year. Scary, and it's a number that we literally can't control. We even went and locked in at a great rate, and I hate to think of what we would be paying if we hadn't locked into the rate. 2700 category is student transportation. This category includes insurance liability, supplies, gasoline, salary and benefits for the transportation director and assistant, public transportation contracts, non-public transportation contracts, after-school transportation for detention, after-school programming, and summer learning. This year, we projected to spend $1,175,591. Next year, we're looking at spending $1,259,064. This is an increase of about $83,473. The reason for the change, state index is going to 6.986 versus the 6.131. And all of our and the majority of our contracts are paid based on that index. 2800 category is support services. This category includes the salary and benefits for the federal programs director, travels and conferences for the federal programs director. This remains the same, $15,289. 2900 is the IU direct pay. This is the IU operating payment. Last year, we paid $11,723. It's going to be up $102 next year, $11,825. which, with the price of inflation, that's really not too bad. And that helps them with, their costs and maintenance. 3,200 category is student activities. That includes athletics. So this category includes everything, coaching salaries, benefits, supplies, game managers, bookkeepers, anybody that runs the clocks, ticket takers, an athletic trainer, entry fees for sporting events, reconditioning, equipment, officials, police security, and of course, travel. This year, we're looking at spending $413,478. Next year, we're looking at $447,518. Increase $34,040. This is mostly due to athletic travel and increases for officials. The 3,300 is community service. This category includes things like Veterans Day. There's money in this account if we have any homeless students that need anything, that we have money set aside for that. And this remains the same, $2,500. The 5,200 category is the fund transfer. This category includes money that we transfer to the food services, cafeteria, as well as the bond energy project. So this year, our budget was $535,335,000. Next year, we're looking at $589,475. This is an increase of $54,140. This is due to rising food costs, inflation, and the amount to the cafeteria could change. Like Stacy said, we don't know if we'll be continuing free breakfast next year. We don't have a lot of guidance yet, so this number could change. I just wanted to let everybody know that our last bond payment will be March 15th of 2028. To date, our bond balance is $1.76 million. So the overall budget, 22-23, we had a revenue of $15,774,988. Expenditures, $16,338,000. 23-24, we're looking at a revenue of $15,454 and expenditures of $17,044. Over budget, a little over 1.5 million. And the reasons for being over budget mostly are the outside cyber and outside placement costs, as well as using up the last of the ESSER funds, which has really helped us keep going. And then, of course, the cost of inflation. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot. You may think of questions, and if you do, you can email me. And I can let you know anything you need to know. And again, this is all preliminary numbers, just based on information that I have right now. And everything.
All right. Meg, go back to you for him.
Consideration to approve increasing taxes due to the outside cyber school cost for the 2023-2024 school year, going to the index of 5.5%. So, second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
What was the difference in not having the increase? How much are we making from the increase in taxes?
Right now, based on the numbers that I have, about $185,000.
So not a lot to.
Not enough.
I mean, is that fine? Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
When you look at it on an individual basis, Andrea, thank you for sending out those individual ones.
Yeah.
See how it impacts.
And again, those are estimates too, and could change with, the tax reduction allocation. Those are just based off numbers I have right now for everybody's county that they live in.
I mean, I think the other thing you have to keep, it's not much this year, but over the course of 10 years, that amount is gonna be 1.8 million.
Right.
No, we've been raising taxes.
Yeah, we raised them last year.
We've raised them for the last,
PSBA says that we raise taxes 8 out of 10 years, and we're also ranked number 413 out of 500 schools on local tax efforts. So with that rebalancing out of Act 672 that I talked about, we don't, I mean, it's tough raising taxes. I know right now it's difficult. That's just a little bit of information that came from PSBA.
yeah, we've raised them, I think, not 2 years we didn't in the last 10, is that what I say, yeah. It is a very, very tough call. I mean, any other discussion? I mean, it'd be an easy answer if we had a balanced budget, but we haven't had a balanced budget for how many years now? 5?
Through everything I've looked back through, I've never seen a balanced budget here.
But it's never been, I mean, it's been worse the last 5
We
years.
put money into the reserve for a good number of years, and then since that 2017-18 school year, we've been trending the opposite way. We had 7.5 million in the reserve, and the auditor said that we have to start spending some money. We couldn't. We were waiting for building upgrades, and at the time we did the Act 39 energy efficiency. We pulled $2 million out. We extended that bond. We paid off the elementary school, and then extended that bond for 10 years. And then each year we've been dropping, 750,000 or so.
But even if you look at what we're gonna get once we quit paying the bond, it isn't gonna still cover, I wrote it here somewhere, it's not gonna cover what we're missing. If we pay off, once we have that paid off, right, it's still not gonna cover what we've been in the hole.
No, we need cyber charter reform, and we need to make a change with that rebalancing effort of Act 672, and those two items will really help us out.
Any other discussion? So we are ready to vote. All in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so we need to, Jameen's opposed. Brady's opposed. So motion carries. I'm not gonna ask for abstentions because nobody gets to abstention on this. Abstain.
Thank you. That'll give us direction moving forward.
Okay, we'll move on to personnel. Brady, do you want to do personnel?
Sure. Letter A, consideration to approve the request from employee 370 for paid maternity leave, 12 weeks with baby due on or before July 12, 23, utilizing all emergency sick and personal days. Once all emergency sick and personal days are exhausted, requesting to use FMLA until October 9th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Move in second. Any discussion?
You get 12 weeks of paid maternity leave.
No, it's not 12.
Says paid maternity leave, 12 weeks.
They utilize all of their sick and personal time during that
So
time
it's just
frame.
FMLA.
And then after that, it's unpaid.
So it's just FMLA.
Yeah.
It's FMLA.
That's not what approved. That's what it just says paid maternity leave, that's what. 12 weeks. To me, it
Well, it
makes
says
sense.
utilizing all of their sick
Well,
personal
they-
days, and then once those are used, then they get family medical leave. Does that make sense?
Well,
If you
they
keep
can-
reading,
Right, but it still doesn't make it seem like that maternity leave for 12 weeks is paid, no matter
Yeah.
what. That's- Yeah.
Can we clean that language up?
I was gonna say, we can reword that.
It is.
We can just
Same
eliminate
to me,
tables.
that's- It's paying the sole teacher pay.
And they take for a total of 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So you have to cross it out.
Okay, so
Paid
So what do you want
maternity leave,
done?
Utilizing all emergency, yes.
Just maternity leave, just take out paid. Okay, take out paid.
So, consideration to approve request from employee 730 or 370 for 12 weeks, with the baby due on or before July 12th, utilizing all emergency sick and personal days. Once emergency sick and personal days are exhausted, requesting FMLA until October 9th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve advertising for a long-term elementary substitute to fill a maternity vacancy, employee 334, beginning the 23-24 school year until mid-November 23. So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve hiring Karen Hetrick upon all receipt of appropriate documentation as marching band liaison to the marching band co-op with Union School District at a supplemental salary of $2,425, beginning with the 23-24 school year. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? We're taking into consideration her years of service, what step she would be on that supplemental contract. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve hiring Ashley Ruth as head cross-country coach upon receipt of all appropriate documentation at a supplemental salary of $1,237, beginning with the 23-24 school year. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to instructional services. Janine, you want to do that for us?
Sure, elementary report, this is Sherman.
So this past week was a very busy week for us, mostly because we had kindergarten registration on April 13th and 14th. And as Carrie mentioned, we do have 37 families that sent in their packets. We saw 32 families last week. The other 5 were unable to make it and will attend in August with the summer registrants. I want to give a shout out to the team who worked to help make that registration happen last week because we were down a couple of our key players for registration due to some family emergencies. And so everyone had to jump in and some of us had to learn some new jobs, including myself. But everyone stepped up to help without complaining. And it, it's really a testament to the family that we are here that everybody jumped in and helped as they needed to. So kudos to my team for that. Mrs. Daly wrapped up her March Madness food drive. Some of you may have seen that online on March 28th. The big winners were the third graders who brought in 7,552 food items to earn the championship title. I believe overall she brought in over 13,000 food items. So like each individual granola bar was an item, but that's a lot. Her stock room is very full right now, so it's great to see. And as you approved tonight, she'll be rewarding them with a trip to the park in Parker for their efforts. So kids really had a lot of fun with that March Madness. Our Q3 after school program will wrap up this Thursday, April 20th. Preliminary progress reports are indicating that we saw some student growth in both ELA and math. And we're now looking at our plans for the summer school program, which we've held in June the past couple summers, which also focuses on ELA skills with the Read Naturally program and math using the bridges this year. And it also adds a STEM piece in the rotation in the summer. And students are recommended for the summer program in the same manner as the after school program based on their current ELA and math progress data. Later this week, on the 20th, I will be enjoying a Q3 Superstar Luncheon, and I just want to give a shout out to those superstars. Mercy Hybert, Nathan Cooper, Joe Bartley, Logan Cribble, Jocelyn Ritchie, Chevelle Ruth, Connor Hanos, Braden Batson, Corey Chrisman, Aubriana Ely, Maya Eiler, and Emmy Gagliano. We had a lot of superstars this quarter, so we'll have a big luncheon. That is rescheduled from March because of our days missed due to the electricity. And I want to thank Mrs. Redding and her staff for planning that day for us. And the last thing I have today, our STEM teacher, Jess Nemelli, took 5 teams of 4th through 6th grade students to the Clarion County YMCA for the STEM Connects Challenge this past Friday, April 14th, and they did very well. You may have seen that on our Facebook page. Our 6th grade team won 2nd place in their division. One of our 5th grade teams won the Creativity Award, and the other 5th grade team won the Student Choice Award in their division. And they would like to come to the May board meeting to tell you about their experience and show you some of their projects. So we're planning that for next month. And I said that was the last thing, but I do have one transportation thing that I figured I would just tell you right now. At our last audit, they had suggested that we reapply for hazardous route designation for Route 58, which basically says that we don't have any walkers. So we can assign every student in our district a bus or van transportation, which helps with our reimbursements. And because 58 is a major highway and there are no sidewalks and there's no safe way to get to school, it had been designated that, but the last time it was designated was in 1975. So the letter that we put in the front of each year's transportation to be audited was from 1975, and they said it was okay, but they suggested that we maybe get a more current one. So we did that application process, and about 2 weeks ago, we got that letter recertifying us as a hazardous route. So that's under transportation, but I figured I'd throw it in now. And that's all I have for tonight, except for the science.
Yes,
Which is
consideration to approve adopting a new science book series for K through 6th grade beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Discussion.
So I promise I'm not going into a big, long presentation like they did for us. But I did bring the 4th grade sample down, so that if anybody wants to take a look at it. Remember I told you that there aren't textbooks, but there are like these little tiny books that go along with each unit. Kara's gonna call up so you can see some of this better. And then they get readers' notebooks that they have like activities that they can do with the notebooks. So there isn't like a hardcover chapter by chapter textbook. There is a kit that also comes with it. It looks just like a big Rubbermaid container. It has all the supplies in it that they would need for each of the modules. The primary grades have 2 kits, so 2 major things, and they can be broken down into 15-minute lessons, which is really advantageous for our primary because we have a lot of trouble squeezing science and social studies time in around math and ELA in primary grades. So that is a huge benefit. And then 3 through 5 has 4 modules each. So we're unique because we're not K through 5, unique to these kinds of companies. I know locally, most buildings are K to 6, but in order to incorporate our 6th grade, we had to go up to the middle school. So their kits are a separate program from the K to 5. That wasn't a big deal in terms of purchasing the supplies, but for professional development, it did add some cost onto our overall total. So the total that I gave Andrea that is in the budget was with all of the professional development that the teachers felt would be beneficial to them. It made it about 18,000 more than their other proposal, and the other proposal was online with the other series that we were kind of weighing in. So the 2 series were kind of equal when you look at just the bare minimum professional development, which was basically 1 day professional development. But because this is such a new type of program with the NGSS and STEEL standards, the teachers felt like the more support would be beneficial. So that includes multiple professional development sessions as well as on-site coaches that will come in and model for that first year that we're doing the program. So we were very impressed with that professional development package. So I did give Andrea the big number, but there is room to come down if we want to look at that. But because the 6th grade is in that middle school package, we had to purchase professional development for elementary and middle school because there's a difference. Starting in 6th grade, there's a difference in how you teach it and the intensity and rigor with which it's taught. So that did increase a little bit, the professional development piece. Karen, if you want to.
Tell me to move there.
That's what you want. Switch.
So
Okay, so-
hands-on activities with this?
Oh, yeah, it's mostly hands-on.
Good.
And it's all very inquiry-based.
Good.
Student-led. So the one thing that did kind of scare them off when we were reviewing the student seriousness was the teacher manual. And even I looked at it, I said, oh my gosh, that is way too wordy, and, you know. But, and we expressed to them when they were coming to present to us, this is like the biggest piece that we didn't like. And he said, that always scares everybody, but wait till you see our online piece. So I just wanted to show you this, and I can share with you, they said that if any of you want to look at it a little further, I can share our sample login and password so that you can get in and look at this as much as you would like. But the teachers would have access to this, and then it's broken down into the different units that are all phenomenon based. So you can go through every single unit, and it has all of this for every unit, but I wanted to show you. The teachers can go in here and actually watch a sample lesson, so like watching an expert teach the lesson, and see how it's supposed to go. There are lessons on here so that if the student is absent, you can assign that to them and they can just watch the lesson that they've missed, so you can't recreate the project or the experiment or whatever they're doing in the classroom discussion for the students when they're absent, because that was a piece that the teachers asked about too. If we move to this discussion-based, inquiry-based, how do you actually pick that up if they missed? So this has, like, they wouldn't get to watch their own class do it, but they would get to watch a sample class work through that question and that project. So while they would be able to ask the questions, they could watch another class do it. I think it's under this one. They didn't send us a sample kit. Here's where it is. So I wanted to just show you that what comes in those kits, in the buckets. They'll tell you how many they need, and then the manipulatives that you'll use with that lesson. So all of this stuff is included, and then it will also tell you if it's a consumable item that you might need to purchase more of. So like one of the lessons needed one cherry, and that's obviously they're not going to put cherry in that kit because by the time we got to it, it's going to be pretty nasty. So you know, there are things like that that we would have to make sure that we purchase. But so those big kits have these things in them that they'll need to use for the projects that they do. The person who came and did the presentation for us recommended that we not purchase the refill kits because he said they're typically things like cotton balls or Q-tips or he said you can go to Walmart or somewhere like that and purchase those things cheaper than you're going to get in these kits. So we did not have her put the other person, there was a gal girl that we dealt with. The girl was, her name's Tina, she was doing our financial part, so we didn't have her put that. So the cost of it after this would be the cost of replacing some of those consumables. We did include the notebooks, that was another thing that they said that you didn't have to have the notebooks for every year and for every grade. That could be decided teacher by teacher, but in the big number that we gave Andrea, we included the notebooks for every grade, for every year of the contract. It's a 6-year contract.
So this cost is a 6-year, pays for 6 years, other than the consumables.
Other than those consumables that we have to replace in 6 years. But we did include the notebooks, and the teachers and I both agreed that we like those just because we like that piece for the students to practice writing and have that. And rather than, because you can do it online, the notebooks are online, but rather than type it, we liked
The physical writing.
Physical writing notebooks.
Is that just the white ones, Lori, or is it the smaller books
The
too?
notebooks,
Yeah.
the white ones are the notebooks,
Okay.
and then, the smaller ones are kind of like in place of the textbook, so it's the little book that goes with the module.
Is that supposed to last us 6 years or do we get new?
No, those come new every year.
Little books too?
I'm pretty sure they were, I'd have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure they were.
So they get to keep those then, the kids do? The little books?
They don't keep them, but I think it's just that they,
But she just said no, that.
I'm pretty sure, I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure that she said it was please do this.
So they keep the notebook, but not the.
Well, they
No,
could take them if we get new.
Because the kids write.
They keep.
But those little ones, like they said, these are gonna have some wear and tear. And they said that, I think he said that they keep them, I'll double check that though. But really, those booklets are a very small piece of the unit, like it's just kind of to get them thinking about the phenomena. And then they go into the projects.
These kids, how often are they doing them? Every day? Or
Well, there's only 4 kits per year. So for the whole year, there's only 4 kits. So it's a process of going through that phenomenon. So there's all different things in that kit for different types of lessons without in that kit. But that kit will provide everything you need for that phenomenon. And I can send this link to you with the login information if anybody wants to look at it further. Because there's so much that you can dive down into. I mean, it was an hour and a half presentation every week, sat and listened to it, so. But I just wanted you to be able to see a little bit of it, so you know what we're looking at. It very much aligns with the way that they were looking for the science standards to go. It's very similar to how the math went recently. And I watched a teacher do a math lesson today. It's so much different than what we did math in school. Even when they did math, it's changed. It was very student-led, and that's exactly how this is. The teacher today, threw the problem out, and the kids were really working, and they came up with multiple ways, and they were coming up with multiple ways to figure out 9 times 4, which sounds crazy, but the way that those kids were able to think through that and all the different processes they came up with, it just amazes me. Because when I was going to school, 9 times 4 is 36, and that's just how it was.
Yeah, well, we just memorized it, now they understand.
Yeah,
the
now they
concept.
understand all of the stuff behind it. And that's what this is being, like, not just being told about science, but really exploring science. So
what's the total cost for this?
of the package that I gave Andrew was $90,000.
Did you get like a paper quote from them, like any type of?
Yes.
I forwarded it to you. Is that this one for the paper?
And that's the other. Where I sent you, one was like 70,000, or 72,000, one was 90. And you said, let's just put in that higher one.
Does that 90,000 come out over 6 years or what? Pay it up front?
Okay, that's not what it's like.
So what kind of prompted the need for a different series? Was it a change
Um,
in standards or what's the?
Partly, but also the current books that we're using in 2005. And a lot has changed science-wise in that time. And we're just like short on books because it's been so long. We initially started the process of looking for a science series in the 1920 school year and then shut down before we finished the process. And then when we got started back up, there were just so many other things going on that wasn't a priority. But this, new standards coming out and not having followed through with that in the past, we just decided it was time that we got back to it and really researched it. And the other series, like this one, if we don't get professional development with it, is about the same cost as the other series. But I do worry that if we don't buy that professional development piece, that it will be difficult for the teachers to make the transition to teaching science this way.
They need it.
Versus a textbook. The other series.
Totally different teaching
The other
process.
series was leaning more towards the NGSS standards. But it
wasn't there. This program was built to meet those standards. And one of the teachers in the committee said, it's kind of like we're here and the other series that we're looking at is here and amplifies here. And if we go here, we're just kind of leapfrogging, trying to get to where we need to be, where we should just make the leap and get that professional development piece and be where we need to be. I think we have until 2020.
That's okay, I'm just
sorry.
moving. I think I scared David.
I think it's-
No, I just.
I believe it's 24, 25 that we are required to have the MGSS standards. Yeah, the requirement to implement the standards is coming.
So my last question is,
And it would be nearly impossible to implement them with our current materials.
so the last question is, we have to purchase the middle school program for sixth grade.
Middle school professional development. Like the cost of the materials is pretty much equal by grade, but the professional development is different for that middle school program than it is the elementary.
How does that, is there any effect on high school and how that transitions into high school science classes or anything like that? What, they're supposed to be used with.
What do you mean, like,
So like,
we're only purchasing that sixth grade piece, is that what you're asking?
oh, okay.
We're not purchasing the materials for 6, 7, 8, we're just doing,
It's not all, you don't have to buy.
we're only buying the materials for 6 grade, but the professional development was extra because it's a different type of
Okay,
program.
that makes sense.
Megan, we had a high school team review textbooks too, and maybe Dr. Jordan could talk. This motion, we need to get the name of the textbook and we need the money in there, or the cost of that as well. So either, yeah, we need to either table that motion or else add the additional information to it.
They did also tell me that, once we had board approval, that we could schedule the professional development to get ourselves on the books. Like, we didn't have to have the bill paid, because I said we can't pay the bill until after July. But they said if we can provide board approval, the sooner I can provide them that, the sooner they can get our professional development in the books, so.
Might be a new thing to throw in that last Act 80 day, so then they have some training, and then they have the summer to look at their materials. I don't know if that's
I
possible,
don't know if
but,
we can do that until we pay for it. But like he was saying, get it on the books for next year.
but they won't do the training now for us.
I would imagine we'd have to pay for it first.
But they have access to the materials, so you pay for it, right? So you get online and start looking at classes.
We can, well, to ask, once the budget's passed,
That'd be in July.
July 1st is when we start ordering materials. And generally, we get materials pretty quickly after we start ordering.
What I'm saying is the online version, as soon as you write the check. they
Oh, yeah,
should
the
have
online
access.
piece, they should have
So
access
somebody
to,
is
yeah,
motivated to see what's out there.
for sure. And they did talk about potentially, they could do some summer professional developments if we wanted to do that, but we were talking more beginning of the year.
I wonder if we put some pressure on them, say, hey, we're willing to buy this, but we need some training on June 1st or whatever. Just a thought.
Janet was pretty nice, I don't.
So we
Janet was sweet
need,
on
we
that.
need to revamp this motion then.
Yeah.
We need to include the name of the series and we need an amount.
So the name was Amplify Science,
Yes.
and the amount was $90,000.
Well, do you have the exact amount there, Andrea?
Just $90,000. That was the highest.
I can get you the exact amount real quick here.
I just begun, I didn't know she could do it. Sure, that's-
You're fine.
It's,
You're fine.
no, I
You can
think,
just
I
amend
think
it.
the way Andrea put it in the budget was 90,000 because it's $89,813.29.
So we want to say that or we want to say 90? What's in the budget, 90? So we'll say 90,000.
Okay, so we're gonna do that again?
Yeah, just amend your motion if you would to include,
Amend the motion for the consideration to approve adopting a new science book series from Amplify Science for the K through sixth grade, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year, in the amount of $90,000. So
Second.
any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that motion carries.
Secondary report, Dr. Jordan.
I'll just segue off of that discussion you just had regarding the high school. My teachers also looked at a number of textbook companies, but they decided that right now, because of the change in standards and how that's all worked out, the textbook companies have not caught up yet with providing the information it needs provided to support those standards. So they decided they would put it off, maybe look at it next year or even possibly the year after. At the high school, we did conduct SAT testing on April 12th. We had 14 students participate. Next week, we are beginning the PSSA testing, followed by AP testing, and then Keystone testing. I placed at all of your seats this end of the year calendar for the high school. It gives you an idea of the amount of testing that we do. And for the remaining 35 days of school, 25 of those days is dedicated to testing of some sort. Sounds pretty outrageous. Hopefully, we can get a lot of these PSSAs wrapped up in less time, but that's the time to schedule and report to the state for what we need to complete makeups and things like that. At the high school, we also wrapped up our online safety programs that was presented to 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students. This year, the focus of the discussion was how to appropriately use phone applications and social media in a way that keeps students safe. I beg and pray students will take that message to heart, and I'll tell you what, the issues with social media this year have been just completely out of the box. It has been an ongoing battle to try to deal with the repercussions of what's happening outside of the school day. And it falls into the school and results in bullying of some sort and all kinds of just very, very nasty actions on the part of our students. Mrs. Logan and I have been having lunch with groups of 6th grade students to help with that transition to the high school. These students have had a lot of good questions, and the number one question is, what happens when I'm late to class and I get lost? So if that's the worst of the problems that happen when they come up, I'll welcome that gladly. Graduation projects will be presented starting at 1 o'clock this Friday. While the seniors are presenting, the rest of the student body will be participating in an assembly based on the movie Song for Charlie. This is a program that focuses on fake fentanyl pills and how this epidemic is killing children throughout the United States, including areas of Western Pennsylvania. It has harmed a lot of our kids. I would like to focus on 2 students, not quite academic, but really, really good news. One of our track athletes, Landon Chalmers, beat the school record in the shot put in this the Invitational at Brookville with a throw of 51 feet, 4.24 or 25 inches. Sorry. Also, if you haven't heard, Natalie Welter, the young lady that I spoke about at the last board meeting, won the silver medal at the Shooting Nationals, and we wish her good luck as she continues to move forward with that. And that is my secondary report.
Thank you. Federal programs report. I do not. Okay. District report.
Thanks, Jimmy. Just a couple updates. We, as Kelly had talked about earlier, we do have an advocacy day tomorrow. It's virtual through PSBA. We have a number of talking points. We're going to be talking about the fair funding lawsuit. We're going to talk about basic education funding, special education funding, mental health needs, the increased cost of cyber charter, which is $3 billion, and cyber charter reform. In addition to that, next week we're going out representing the superintendents in Northwestern Pennsylvania. We're going to be asking for mandate relief. We're going to be talking about cyber charter reform, basic education funding, special education funding, early childhood funding, educational staff shortages, and then also have on that list the Act 672 that I talked about with the rebalancing. So we got lots of advocacy going on right now. There's a lot of activity in Harrisburg. So we'll continue to fight for Northwestern Pennsylvania. And I know we're going to vote on it, but just a little bit of clarification for the revised school calendar. I did submit 2 emergency day requests in the Pennsylvania Department of Education. They were both denied. And the reason why is because we weren't able to utilize all of the built-in snow days, the 2 days after graduation, and have it done before the end of June 30th. So theoretically, it doesn't apply to school districts like us. Now, if we were large and we had one building off campus and it lost electric and the rest of the school ran it, then an emergency waiver would be appropriate. So long story short, we have to make up those days. We have to do 180 days with our students. And the Career Center students need 360 hours at the Career Center. The high school students need 990 hours, and the elementary need 900 hours. So in order to fulfill all those obligations, and basically it's that minutes that we lose going up and back from the Career Center, is we needed all our students here on campus on June 1st. So we only need a couple hours. So that's why we're going to do the morning. We'll dismiss at 11 o'clock. We'll bring the kids in and feed them, and then we'll keep the staff for the rest of the day on June 1st for professional development. And then June 2nd, we have a in-service day as well. So those are the changes right there. You can see within that calendar, we designated those 3 makeup days. And I'll share that information out. I've shared it to the teachers, and once approved, then I'll share it with the community as well. And that concludes my report today.
Great, thank you. So we can go ahead with these 2 considerations then?
Yep.
Consideration to approve the agreement between the AC Valley School District and Bridge Builders Community Foundations, creating an AC Valley Foundation as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? So help us get our foundation going.
I'm sorry, when will that take? When will they be able to get that?
The Bridge Builders organization has to approve it as well. And Trent said sometime in April. So
that means we'll operate under their 501c3.
yes, that's correct. Yep.
Somewhat unrelated, but is there any update on Nature Fest?
We're going to hit pause on that until next spring because we just couldn't get the presenters coming in, and it just wasn't working out. This foundation took us a lot longer to create it, so we needed to get a place to put the money to start generating some revenue. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at there.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the modified district school calendar, with the student's last day being June 1st, 2023, which will be a half a day in the morning due to electricity outages as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
The student board representative report.
So, as for athletics, all the spring sports at the high school have started. So far, many of the teams are having successful seasons. We did have a PBIS trip. It was planned. We're going to go to Urban Air, and they were going to have it in early April, but that was when we had some of the closures due to the electricity. So that trip has been rescheduled for May 9th. And the trip was initially going to be a reward for students who did not receive any disciplinary programs. And then we had a career fair, and that was on March 24th. And it was held at the high school, and 100 participants were welcomed. Students had an opportunity to attend 4 sessions on different careers. Students also had an opportunity to attend sessions in gym where 30 tables featured colleges, universities, and local businesses. And they provided students with an understanding of possible career pathways after high school. Personally, my favorite session was a session with Mrs. Sherman's daughter, Allison Sherman. And she gave an insight on careers in medical research. And then after the career fair, all the students were given an opportunity to write a reflection on kind of what they liked about it, how they think that opportunity will prepare them for their future career. They're given that opportunity in all of their English classes. So this weekend, it'll be on Saturday, the Hollywood Prom is going to be, it's going to be held here. We're gonna have the Grand March here, at the high school auditorium. And it will be at 5:15, and everyone is invited to attend, or everyone, is, welcome to attend. And then prom this year is open to students in grades 9 to 12. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. And we don't have the school police report, is that your?
Okay. We do not have any policy this evening. Jeff, would you like to do facilities?
Mark, you have a maintenance report.
Yeah, if, for the power outage, so we got up to date on, I'm sure that it is listed. We've had 600 light bulbs blown out of the school. Over 4-foot LED lights. Some classrooms that only had a couple lights burning in. 52 motion detection light switches in the classrooms. So the first few days, we struggled just to get, say, have lights in the classroom. It was 14 classroom unit vents down, 4 rooftop units, 1 air handler unit. Having control problems with domestic hot water at both schools. We lost the control boards at both. We didn't have hot water heaters for 2 days. Heating board, we lost the control boards out of all our heating boards. High school lost 3 rooftop unit control boards. The majority of the equipment has been fixed. We're still waiting on parts for 2 rooftop units down here, and we're still waiting on parts for high school. This area here is not working, and that way in the building, the rooftop units not working. All the classroom units are working now. Hot water has been working 2 days without. Lights are all working in classrooms. We put regular light switches in to get the lights on. We're waiting on the motion activated light switches. Some teachers like them, some teachers don't. This is the second time we've had to replace them. So cost-wise, not real effective, energy saving energy. But they do turn the lights off and people are active in the room, the lights will go on. I'm not sure how much it's saving us in energy wise. Because of the technology and the problems we have with going back. The weather's nice and not mowing. We've got several times. We've got the high school big large bleachers out the football field, so we're graduating out there. So the track season's done with veteran people that will be other than that.
So Mark, you were able to turn that into the insurance company to get on that?
We're still working on it. The person I communicated on with messages called me last Wednesday. I called her right back, and her message was I'll be out of the office from Wednesday until Monday. I have not communicated personally with them, but we have submitted paperwork.
You do have the claim opened, and I've submitted all of our list with prices, but there shouldn't be any problem with that.
We did a lot of local electric, heater, lumber, Home Depot, just to get the materials, light switches, light bulbs. So we utilize, try to utilize any local to get all the material. Luckily, we had about 300 light bulbs on stock. That's all. Thank you. We are looking at trying to get a generator, a freezer cooler on the generator circuit. So it's not like this is not a normal thing that's happened. And I tell you, I think it's not any more normal in the future. But we're going to try to get one of our schools on the generator. This is the largest one we can accommodate everything down here. So that's our plan.
Thanks, Mark. Patty, could you do transportation?
Consideration to approve the transportation protocol we improve volunteer expectations with driving school and for the school SUV as
So moved.
Sorry, so.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Should we add, it says van and the SUV, should we add any of the trucks on there? Because I know that came up in discussion last time. Or a couple weeks ago, that letter.
Yeah.
Could we ever anything to get the truck?
Truck,
And it would be truck and trailer.
I know when we did band, we would take the truck sometimes,
yeah,
but
the George football season, they take it all the way, they put the equipment in. And if the band is scheduled for some other thing, possibly the band, marching band may take the truck if the band's not available.
So people,
Yeah, they do, yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be a
So we
good.
should add the truck.
Okay.
Also, I didn't.
That is to add the truck.
Second.
any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the 2023-2024 Marion County Career Center bus run with daily busing of $1,055.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have discussion, it's on and off.
Well, it depends on how many students continue to go up there, but, no, we have to add Lori and I talked about potentially adding a band onto that as well. Because right now, 2 per seat would be 48 students. So if we have the additional, that's what we're looking at. I don't think we need that yet because, the numbers always fluctuate one way or the other between when the kids sign up and the actual start of it. So we'll have better numbers as the year progresses.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the regular bus transportation based on state formula, transportation cost index of 6.986%.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve paying the rate of 2.56 cents per mile for extracurricular bus transportation, $5.31 per hour after the first 2 hours wait time, and a minimum compensation rate of $92.60 per trip for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve paying the rate of $1.65 per mile for van automobile transportation for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the request from Brandon Offended to remove John Scott Duffy as a driver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Carrie, will you finish us out with miscellaneous?
Kelly, can I interrupt before you start on that?
Sure.
Last week at the board or workshop, you guys had asked me to look into extracurricular contracts with the van drivers.
Yes.
We currently have one with Pam Myers, but the other 4, 3 of them were not interested, and the 4th one said that she could possibly take it, but she could not run anything before 4 o'clock and could not run anything last week or this week because of already committed to the after-school program. But when I talked to Dave, he said that it's not after 4 o'clock that he has the problem, because after 4 o'clock, he's got bus contractors who can fill it. It's the ones that are needing to leave at like 2:30 in the afternoon that is the issue. So there were no new contracts to present to you. I just wanted to follow up and let you know.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Carrie.
Career Center report.
So on March 30th, they had a National Technical Honor Society program, which is nice. There's a career fair April 28th, and the senior recognition program is Thursday, May 18th at the Cornerstone Church in Shippensburg. We approved David to the new superintendent of records starting July 1st for the Career Center. They finished their modular home they were working on. They sold it for $91,000 down to Shakora area. they're very happy to get that out of there. The new homeowner was happy. And then they're going to repaint some bending tubes in the welding and I think the automotive shop. They're starting to peel off, so they're gonna get those repainted. That's about it.
All right, consideration to approve the 2023-2024 Saginaw County Career Center operating budget and budget resolution, budget balance as attached. So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? You should have a sheet at your seat. No, I'm not, because I'm afraid of what'll come out. You need to sign this, please. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I do report, we had a meeting on March 22nd. I was there as well. Actually, that's the note of,
Okay, thank you.
looks like we have some correspondence from Michelle Troutman, Administrative Officer from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Food Assistance, dated March 31st, 2023, regarding the single audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2020, which was attached. Acknowledgement day.
We have not met.
Audit committee is not met either. Right? Anything in football field?
I did find a grant for $50,000 I'm working on right now, so more to come with that.
Finance.
We've met. Yep.
If you can find us some money, go for it.
I just, I didn't know, because we used to meet, like, I feel like we met last year.
Yeah.
But it's not like.
We still got a lot of work between now and May, so I think scheduling a meeting between now and then would be a good idea. I'll work on it.
Okay, any old business?
I'll kind of, kind of touching on that, I guess, just bringing up that we're talking about insurance, the health insurance. We've kind of been going back and forth a little bit, and I just kind of want to see where everyone's at, I guess, we're running out of time to make any changes for this year. So with the last information that we got from the Rashidi group, they had talked about the money that's in that escrow fund that we would potentially lose out on if we got out of the healthcare contracts this year. So,
Okay, yes.
to back up a little bit, if we are to get out of our healthcare group, we need to inform them by October, previous to the June that we are going to end that contract. So if we were to get out this June, we would have had to let them know October 2022 that we were going to leave. And that would potentially save us some money. So just the estimates, I believe it was about $250,000 that we had paid out last year to claims. And then the year before that, it was about $150,000. So roughly about $400,000 that we paid out to claims after the year has ended. So that's what that escrow amount is for. And they said that we have about 250, I think, sitting in there at the moment. So what that means is that amount that's sitting in there is going to be used to pay any claims that are lingering over the next 2 years. And then anything that's left will be paid back to us. So my understanding from those numbers that are given to us is that account is pretty much a wash. Is it's likely going to be used on claims that are going to be paid out in a couple of years anyways. So I felt like that was good news coming from that end, so we don't really have to worry about losing the money in that account because really we don't have the money anyways. It's theirs to use for claims, and if anything's left there, we'll get it back, but it doesn't seem like we can get it back.
Didn't they, just to understand, if they go over a certain amount, then we have to pay them back if it's over whatever that number is?
For the Rashidi group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're on the hook for possibly more too. So with that being said, I just want us to all be aware that, not saying there's no risk, but there's minimal risk if we still want to try to decide to get out of that Rashidi group contract by this June. And the last numbers that we had seen, the previous group that we met with, HGRX, this was like a general claim or a general savings because they didn't have the health questionnaires from our staff yet. But I think we were looking around $350,000 in savings by going with their Sigma plan. And they stated that we do have a healthy group here, so we could potentially be looking at maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in savings once we get those health questionnaires, and they can, finalize those numbers better. And we're not looking at the 4.5 increase, so we'd be saving another $100,000 by leaving the machine group. So, all those numbers, I guess I just, we're kind of in limbo here. Do we get the health questionnaires? What do we do next? I would just like some input from everybody else, like on their thoughts, what they're thinking, is it too good to be true? Just.
Did the Rashidi Group not provide anything of any cost savings?
I just noticed that it was gonna be an increase.
Okay.
Yeah, they had said that if staying with them is a cost savings versus going to being strictly insured by Highmark or,
And they showed many ways that you could save changes to the plan.
once we negotiate a new contract.
It was all raised and deducted.
Even that's.
It wasn't.
It wasn't a lot.
Saying like $200,000. I know Meg made a comment one time that, with the budget the way it is, and we really need to look at some way to save money. Not a lot of options out there to save money or to not spend it, I guess. Question, if we left the Rashidi Group and we didn't like who we went with, could we go back to the Rashidi Group? Or would they not take us back? Would we be penalized?
We would have to, they indicated it might be difficult to get back in. I don't know.
It's too late to make changes for the upcoming school year, correct?
I think it is, personally. I'm just hesitant
I
to
thought we were
try.
looking at.
Yes, they needed notification in October.
For this
Of this year.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it for next year, you have to decide by October. Right.
But that is just to save you that money in escrow, which is theoretically not going to be there, because it's gonna pay out the claims anyways. So they're trying to scare you with them.
Oh, so you're saying that we could wait till the end of next year and just forego the escrow money and not worry about it and still make the changes? That was,
We could make the change this year.
You'd have to do it now.
2023.
And you just won't get that money back, don't use that money to pay.
which we're probably not gonna get back anyway.
Okay.
So how much money is required on the other groups?
Well, this is self-funded, so we would have to, I don't know, how does it work? What kind of a pot of money do we need to start?
Is that one self-funded? Yeah.
Yeah. That was my understanding.
I think that one is the ECCHIC.
Which one was the one that offered incentives for spouses to take the other insurance?
There wasn't any, we'd have to do that, that's contractual. That's a contractual issue.
Mike.
Yeah, I think,
Mike was the one that talked about.
Mike suggested that, but that would be something we'd have to negotiate in the next contract.
but they offered incentives for them to do that. They would offer incentives for,
Well,
We would offer.
we would offer the
We
incentives,
We
we
would.
already do now.
okay.
And when is that contract up? It's up 2 years? That was just renegotiated? Or we have 1 year?
Yeah,
So, we're gonna be out money. I think we need to continue the conversations. I don't know that we're at a point where we want to make a decision right now, because I think there's still a lot of information that we still need to absorb. But
Could we get a summary of all those reports that we got, all those?
they each gave us,
Yeah,
You weren't comfortable with, which one was that?
Yeah, that HGRX, and Meg said that she talked with her contact there, and the message didn't relay, which is fine, but they're dragging their feet, in my opinion, on releasing an NDA to find out what schools and municipalities within the Commonwealth they work with. To me, that's a big deciding factor. If you only have 2 and they're based out of Philly, that's not gonna work.
well, why, I don't understand why we need an NDA to know that. Why can't they just say,
I think they're afraid that somebody's working behind the scenes is gonna poach them or try to steal contracts, move wherever. I mean, I have the plans of that, I move dirt for a living.
I mean, we wouldn't sign, would we, like, if somebody asked us who we are insured with, we just say Rashidi Group. Why is it an issue to say, well, this school district's with us or this one isn't? I mean, I think, I thought that was, yeah, I don't understand why they need an NDA.
Yeah, I told the school districts that went in there.
That's what I thought, so I don't understand why they're saying we have to decide a non-disclosure.
HTRX is very hesitant to give us any. They gave us two. One was Crowley Public Schools in Colorado, and one was Dodge City Public Schools. They're not comparable to AC Valley by any means.
So you're saying that's a red flag right now?
To me, that concerns me, yeah.
I was concerned that they weren't representing like any school districts like locally. And I was also concerned, like if you guys, choose to go out, I would really love to talk to like their business department and see how it affects them, because it could create a workload that could need another person.
Sure,
It's not
that is
physically
true.
possible for me to do.
So this is with Cigna, right?
So that was the broad plan that they had presented without the health questionnaires, because they don't know our specific claims, because the Rashidi group will not release our claims now.
So what do they want our people to tell them?
It's just like a general health questionnaire, pretty much saying what your, like if you have diabetes, or if you have high blood pressure, or if you have anything like that. So then they, like, a person that's diabetic is gonna cost a heck of a lot more than the person who.
Do our staff though, do they have, we can't force them to fill out that health information.
No, but it would be like a secure email that they would receive, and that they would fill it. It would be the same as like Highmark sending them a security survey, and that they would fill out that information. And, it should take less than like 10 minutes for them to fill it out.
My only concern is Cigna, I don't understand enough, will Cigna cover everything that we're already that is covered? Because we can't change any of that till we have a contract change. So will Cigna pay for this drug that Highmark's already paying for, or they're gonna say, no, that's not on our formulary list? Or this doctor, we won't pay. I think they made a comment they'd have to pay out of pocket, and then they'd reimburse them. How do we know how to compare them?
So contractually, I have no idea what the contract says.
Well, we have to
The
keep the
contract
exact
says-
same, we cannot change the coverage they have.
Until the contract is up.
Right.
With
What
our
we're
school
gonna try to
district.
collect though is to see who your doctors are, so they can try to line everything up.
Correct.
So they're trying to make it apples to apples, as they move down.
And
I got, we're trapped in the Highmark UPMC because we can never be UPMC. So it's Highmark and we jumped to Aetna for a couple years and then jumped out.
right, whereas this Cigna plan is a nationwide in-network plan. So if, they went to Colorado and got sick, they would have in-network options there. Where I would assume that the Highmark plan is like that.
It is.
but I'm not sure.
It is.
So that, I do know that Cigna plan was a nationwide in-network plan. In terms of formulary, I don't know that for sure, but I would think that the formulary is not something that you can contractually, I don't know, but I would think that the contract would go as far as saying, your drug that's covered here, like your Xarelto is covered, but your Eliquis isn't. I can't see that would be a contractual thing, just that it would be a.
I think it would be, because we're guaranteeing same
Everything
coverage.
that's in the union contracts would have to be covered the same until the end of that.
So what does it say about
Contract
formulary
2025.
drugs in the contract? Does it just say based on the formulary drug?
No, it just says we have to keep, we can't change the insurance
Right, but
unless
what I'm
it's the
saying,
exact
formulary
same.
drug list changes itself.
It changes.
Every year it changes. So the contract should read based on the most current formulary drug
No,
list.
it doesn't say that. I don't know of any that,
Because if it doesn't, and the formulary drug list changes, and somebody's prescription was covered last year, but it isn't this year, are they gonna hold you liable?
no, but I don't know that any of, I don't remember my contract ever, when I was a teacher, ever saying
Well,
that,
that was
but they couldn't change.
So that's what I'm saying, and how, you'd have to see how it was written, because nobody controls the formulary drug.
Right, but what I'm saying is though,
I
if
really
it's
just
still,
think it's that thing that says their copays are $5, their copays are $10,
Yeah.
their, in-network, out-of-network, that sheet, I would think that that's all that you could.
So then you need to define your network.
no, it's the same coverage. It means that,
That is the same coverage.
As long as you're meeting that.
but I think it means that whatever your doctor's covering, your doctor's gonna be covered,
Right, so it's.
none of that can change.
Right, you have to make sure your doctors are covered, and that's.
But
everything.
we have to know that Cigna's gonna cover all those doctors.
Oh, right, exactly, but the doctors, yes, the doctors, the hospitals, that type of thing, if there's any specialists that are covered, yes, all of that would have to stay the same. But what I'm saying is, if you're talking about formulary drugs, nobody controls that, nobody. So,
I realize that, but if Highmark and UPMC, whatever we have now, Highmark pays for that drug, and we switch to Cigna and they don't,
but they're all
I'm-
following the same formulary drug program, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know that they are. I thought each insurance had their own formula.
They do, but.
They do have their own.
Your formulary changes yearly, so that cannot be a contract in the teacher contract for 3 years that is holding Highmark accountable to cover yours relative for 3 years. I can guarantee that cannot be in there. Now, it's the in-network doctors, that could be, that could be an argument, but we need to get to that step. Like, we just keep arguing about the prior step.
So in order to get to that step, they would have to fill out those questionnaires to see what doctors they use.
I think that, and it'll give us a more crystal clear amount on what we're actually looking at in terms of savings. Because, if we're looking at a $400,000 savings this year, and we decide to not make that change in June for next year, then we're gonna lose 400 plus the $100,000 gain that we're gonna take on the machine group, so we're looking at a $500,000 loss for next year.
And I don't see anything wrong with at least getting quotes, I do that all the time. And I do have companies that will say to me, oh, sure, we'll insure you, great, they'll give me prices, great. Next thing I know, before they'll sign the contract with me, oh, we need your employees to fill out these medical questionnaires before we can give you the actual amount we're going to charge you. So that's very common to do it that way. And then it turns around, well, we aren't going to insure you because you do have somebody that's a high risk or something. But you don't know until you get to that point.
That's on the assumption that every person's gonna fill them out.
Right.
They're gonna balance your risk
Right.
factors, they're gonna give you a quote based on what they're seeing, the trends there. And they can take some of it based on what they're paying out on
the
their
claims.
claims right now,
Right.
so.
But they can't take it to the point where they can guarantee, yes, that doctor's gonna be on the list. Of course, you can't control if their in-network doctor all of a sudden decides they're not in network anymore. So you can't control that.
Yeah, I mean, well, some of that's Pennsylvania determined too, because of the way they're changing all those systems.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something maybe to reach out to Zach about, but like, we need to get a firm understanding as to what is considered contractual and what is not before we make that. I mean, I feel.
Could you reach out to Knox Law about that? I just feel like, I feel more comfortable asking Knox Law that question than Zach. Nothing against him, I just feel like he would deal with, Knox Law would deal more with the teacher union contract than Zach would.
Yeah, it does.
And who brought that? What group was that?
Now, I think
What group was that?
the union has to approve if we're changing this.
Yeah, so if we change mid-contract, we could be all ready to make, $500,000 in savings, but
But the
the
union
has to
could vote
approve
it
the
down.
change. They can vote down the change.
The union has to approve that we're doing this change.
Okay.
Well, it's either that or we don't hire teachers, so.
Well,
We gotta
I
make
don't
some
know
kind
who are
of
saying that, but
No, yeah, that's a good point, I forgot about that one, they have to approve it.
yeah.
I guess I'm just not opposed to looking. It doesn't hurt to shop and see if there is something. If we find out it's already better, we can't do, then we know. But if you don't know, then,
We've just been talking about it for a long time, so we just don't want to see it drag our feet for another year and go further. If we don't have to.
I also want to just give you an example of a school district that went out because they didn't want to be in their consortium anymore, went out and met with another group and had great savings at the beginning, and then next year they're actually going up 18.6%.
It's kind of dependent on the classes.
Right.
I mean, it's.
Yeah,
You can
but they
have
were,
that
they were
regardless,
guaranteed all these savings, and now they're,
but that was probably because of big usage.
Yeah.
Usage.
then you're, I mean, when you're out of that consortium, then you're responsible for everything over that, so.
And too, I like you, like you said too, you really do need to reach out to somebody that's working,
Yeah,
anybody that if they decide to change.
Yes. I think that's really important.
Okay. Are we moving on then to new business? I mean, are you adding something here? Do you want to have that? No? Okay.
No, I mean, so we have the health screening still out. Are we all in favor of that at least? I don't think the 50% has voted on that.
Yeah, we probably should vote on it.
I'd like to concur with, have we confirmed with an attorney that we can ask those questions and we're not in violation of anything?
You're not gonna be asked them, like, you're not,
Yeah, but we're,
in all of this.
Okay, as long as we're not violating anything, I just want to make sure that legality, we're fine.
so we need to check with Knox Law.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Okay. New business, I just have one thing to share with you, that the 2023 baccalaureate service will be May 11th at 6 PM at Chapel on the Hill. And there will be a cake and ice cream reception to follow at 7 PM. If you've never attended that, they are nice to go to. So that's May 11th at 6 PM at Chapel on the Hill. Any other new business?
I just wanna, send a shout out to Bill and staff for the excellent career day. I attended, Brady attended, Andrea, very well attended. I know they put in a ton of work. It did not go unrecognized. You know, I know that was a long process and a lot of hard work and hours put into that. So kudos. I think all the presenters, all of the attendees said the same thing. It was phenomenal.
Right, yeah.
So,
I had a couple people from my group say that this was by far the nicest school they've been into.
and the kids liked it. I mean, I think we definitely heard a lot of, from my own kids even, you know, heard a lot of positive things coming from the student body, so that was nice to hear.
Okay. Anything else? I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned,
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hey, one thing I want to bring up. Diane had her knee replaced today. Carrie and I talked on Saturday that it might be nice for us as a board if we would maybe send her a meal. Carrie volunteered to pick something up at the grill, so if we each want to give her, do you want us to just give you some money and then you can do that?
I'll just get it and then.
And you let us know what we each owe you? Are you sure?
Count me in on that, Carol.
And make sure you give Tammy your ballot.